Chapter 2666. Dilapidated city walls, collapsed palaces, withered ancient trees. The desolate country was the same as the other places in this world. After being baptized by the devil religion, it was filled with a sense of decay. Only a rough outline of the stone city was left in the midst of the ruins. The buildings were beyond recognition. The only place that was slightly better preserved was probably the desolate country's imperial palace. However, this kind of completeness was only relative. Most of the originally magnificent and solemn palaces had collapsed at this time, and only a few scattered places were still preserved. Among them was the Du family's ancestral house. In the horizon, the remaining light of the setting sun had dissipated. Only a dim light shone, and the entire world was hazy. Creak. There was the sound of a door being pushed open. A door in the Du family's ancestral house was gently pushed open. Du Tingxian, Han Aodong, Du Xiaojing, Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiong, Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoyao, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaohuang, and the others filed in and stood in the middle of the hall. Behind them were Donli Qingqing, O Yangshuang, Su Muxin, Qi Yeshi, Yi Zijin, Zi Xian, Sima Muhan, Du Xiaoqing, Yi Wuming, Murong Yorua, and the others. Third uncle, will there really be a miracle if we do this? Du Xiaoman's pretty face was filled with sorrow. Her pair of dim eyes looked at Du Tingxian as she could not help but ask. I don't know either, but I want to try. Du Tingxian did not look at Du Xiaoman. He only said softly. Then, with a flip of his wrist, he took out an item from his heaven-earth bag. It was Du Xiaofu's remaining head. Father. Wu, brother, Xiaofu. Seeing Du Xiaofu's head being taken out, everyone behind Du Tingxian burst into tears in an instant. Especially Han Aodong, Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaohuang, Du Xiaolin, and the others. They immediately burst into tears as if their hearts and lungs were being torn apart. O Yangshuang, Dongli Qingqing, and the other girls were all in grief. Their tears fell like beads. Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiong, Du Yunlong, and Zhen Qingchun were no exception. My father will definitely come back. Beside Du Tingxian, Little Star's large eyes were completely red. There was a sparkling light brewing within them. However, he forcefully endured it and did not cry out. Instead, he solemnly vowed. Brother will definitely come back. Du, and the others. Neen understood. Du and Du was Du's Du and Du. Let's hope there will be another miracle. Du Tingxian gazed at Du Xiaofu's face thoughtfully. On the pale, bloodless face, Du Xiaofu had closed his eyes, and the hideous look on his face was gone. His lips were even curled up a little bit, as if he had sensed the end of the catastrophe of the devil religion and was therefore overjoyed. After a long time, Du Tingxian took a deep breath and stepped forward slowly. His body also released a stream of aura that spread out in the air. In front of him, there was a stone coffin. As Du Tingxian walked forwards, under the push of his aura, the stone tiles began to creak as the lid of the stone coffin began to slowly open. Du Tingxian walked to the side of the stone coffin, held Du Xiaofu's head, and gently put it into the stone coffin. Woo! In the central room, everyone was crying even harder. They all rushed to the edge of the stone coffin and looked at the face of the young man lying inside quietly. Get out of the way, Du Tingxian said with a sigh. Hearing this, everyone still looked at Du Xiaofu reluctantly for the last time, but they all stepped aside obediently. Then, in front of their eyes, Du Tingxian stretched out his hands. With a click, the stone lid gently closed. Xiaofu, brother! Father! Han Aodong, Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaolin, and the others all sobbed. They were very sad. Although they were full of hope that Du Xiaofu would wake up again one day, they also knew that it all depended on a miracle. It was very likely that they would never see the existence of that young man again in the future. His physical body has been destroyed, and only his head is left. His primordial spirit has been burned up. Is there really a miracle? Du Tingxian looked at the tightly sealed stone coffin and could not help but sigh in his heart. In fact, not only Du Tingxian, but everyone behind him also knew this. They knew that the possibility of Du Xiaofu coming back to life was too slim. Although everyone knew this in their hearts, none of them were willing to say it out loud. No matter what, they had to leave some hope for themselves, for the Du family, for the desolate country, and for many people in this world. This stone coffin is an ancient object. It has always been placed in the Du family's ancestral hall. No one knows its exact origins, but I think it should be related to the Du family's ancestors. Let's wait and see. Who knows when Xiaofu will come back? Du Tingxian faced the crowd and forced a smile as he said this. The reason why he said this was indeed based on evidence. It was not fabricated out of thin air. When Du Xiaofu was young, Du Tingxian would often carry him into this stone coffin to sleep. It was also because of this that Du Xiaofu's rise was achieved step by step, and he was able to awaken the Du family's lightning martial vein. And this lightning martial vein was engraved by the Du family's ancestors. For it to awaken in Du Xiaofu's body, it might be closely related to this stone coffin. Therefore, Du Tingxian wanted to give it a try, hoping to obtain a miracle from this ancient stone coffin. Let's go. Let Xiaofu be alone for a while. Du Zhenwu said softly and waved his hand at the crowd. All these years, he has endured too much alone. This time, let him have a good rest. Du Zhixiong sighed softly. Under Du Zhenwu's signal, he slowly turned around and walked out of the door. That's right. Let him rest. But when he wakes up again, I'm afraid he will continue to make trouble. Yi Wuming followed closely behind Du Zhixiong and turned around. As he spoke, he couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth into a slight smile. Let him make trouble. Anyway, this world can't trap him anymore. Let him go out and make trouble, Du Zhixiong said. After saying this, he couldn't help but laugh loudly. But everyone present could hear how much sadness and grief was hidden in this laughter. Xiaoba, let's go and wait for my father's return. Little Xingxing held Du Xiaohuang and little Kailin in each hand. After calling Du Xiaoba, the four of them left together. The remnants of the devil religion in the outside world haven't been cleared up yet. I'll go and kill them first. Du Xiaoyao turned around domineeringly. In a burst of golden light, his figure directly escaped into the sky. Wait for me. Zhen Qingchun called out, and then he disappeared from where he stood. Then Du Xiaojing, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman and the others flew out one after another and swept into the distance. Outside the house, Jialo Jueyu, Yi Piaoling, Qin Guyu and the others also followed. Soon, the rest of the people also walked out of the Du family's ancestral hall. Suddenly, it became extremely quiet. The sun set and the moon rose. Night covered the earth. The whole stone city of the Huang country also seemed quiet. After sending Du Xiaofu into the stone coffin, most of the experts left to pursue the remnants of the devil religion. The next day, under the arrangement of Yi Wuming, the stone city became lively again. Countless figures appeared, bustling about in various places. Huge stones and thick logs were continuously moved here. The stone city entered the stage of repair after the great calamity. For cultivators, building a palace was a waste of talent. But when it was really done, the speed was astonishing. In just a few days, the entire stone city and the entire imperial palace were brand new. Palaces stood tall and the roads were paved. The layout was exactly the same as before. The stone city doesn't need to engrave arrays in the future. With the current strength of the Huang country, I'm afraid no one will dare to provoke us. Yi Wuming looked at everything familiar and muttered. The dragon veins that were broken in the war still need to be connected. No matter what, the Huang country's luck cannot be damaged. Murong Yurua said from the side. She had a slender waist and white hands. Yes, perhaps the dragon chi of the Huang country's imperial palace can have some unexpected effects. Yi Wuming tilted his head and looked at the Du family's ancestral hall. Murong Yurua softly nodded her head in agreement. She knew that the unexpected effects that old Yi was talking about was Du Xiaofu, who was placed in the stone coffin. Regardless of whether the imperial palace's dragon chi could really have an effect, they had to try. It was not a bad thing. By the way, old Yi Baing has been found. Murong Yurua said softly as she reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. In the fierce battle a few days ago, Du Xiaofu had been worshipped by all the living beings in the world. He had attracted the most powerful imperial chi and reached the peak of the heavenly saint realm. He had used the desolate country's new seal, Buying, to fight against the demon god. But in the end, under the demon god's attack, Buying was sent flying. In the midst of the great battle, no one had the mind to search for his whereabouts. And after the great calamity ended, Du Tingxian had immediately found him. "It's good that you found him. I'll go find someone to connect the dragon veins," Old E said as he hurriedly turned and left. With the desolate country's current strength, connecting the dragon veins was naturally not a problem. With a half-step heavenly saint expert like Zhen Qingchun, everything would be easy. After a few days, Du Xiaoyao, Jialo Jueyu Yipiaoling, Du Yunlong, Changguyu, Zhen Qingchun, and the others had all returned from outside. The demon god and several demon emperors were all dead. The devil religion was defeated like a landslide. They could only be ruthlessly slaughtered. And with the addition of many half-step heavenly saint experts, it was like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. It was difficult for the people of the devil religion to even escape. In a few days, most of the remnants of the devil religion had been killed. Only a few unsightly clowns were still hiding everywhere, struggling at death's door. However, the other forces in this world continued to wipe out the devil religion. They swore to uproot the devil religion and not let a single one of them go. After Zhen Qingchun returned, he immediately used a tyrannical method to connect the dragon veins. In an instant, the incomparably majestic imperial palace's dragon chi rolled in once again and gathered in the desolate country's imperial palace. At the same time, Buying was placed in a large hall. He floated gently and exuded a domineering and majestic aura. However, many of the desolate country's experts could see that Buying had suffered serious injuries. Under the attack of the demon god, the power that he had accumulated over many years had been greatly reduced. It would take a long time for him to reach his previous peak or even surpass it. On the 7th day after the great calamity ended, which was also the 7th day after Du Xiaofu's death, the desolate country became even more lively. Countless experts poured into the stone city and arrived at the imperial palace. Disciples of the Mahist clan are here to pay respects to the Rock Emperor. Under Hu Xuanhu's lead, Mo Runan and the other survivors of the Mahist clan came to greet them. They bowed to Du Tingxian and the others who came out to greet them. Disciples of the Confucian school are here to pay respects to the witch sovereign. Meng Qianhe, Kong Sanxi, and the others of the Confucian school arrived soon after. With the arrival of these two people, the space outside the stone city constantly fluctuated violently, and one figure after another walked out of it. The Phoenix clan is here to pay respects to the Rock Emperor. The ancient wilderness continent's human sacred temple is here to pay respects to the human emperor. Shang State's Saman Sword sect is here to pay respects to the Rock Emperor. The ancient wilderness continent's Beast Alliance is here to pay respects to the Rock Emperor. Disciples of the Profound Talisman sect are here to pay respects to the Rock Emperor. The Great Golden Winged Rocks are here to pay respects to the young clan leader. The beasts of the Tianhuang continent are here to pay respects to the Rock Emperor. The Sacred Monster Hall of the Monster Realm is here to pay respects to the Rock Emperor. Countless experts tore through the air, but all of them appeared outside the Stone City and walked into the city on foot to show their respect to the Rock Emperor. The Ancient Heaven Sect, Seven Star Hall, Golden Spear Sect, Sky Thunder Fortress, 100 Flowers Gate, Blizzard City, Sacred Flame Sect, Hahuan School, and other top factions of the three continents and Kyushu had all come to the desolate nation. In addition, many small factions had also sent experts to pay respects, causing the entire Stone City to be packed. Even the massive imperial palace could not fit so many people. Those small forces, or those with weaker cultivations, all consciously went outside the imperial palace, quietly waiting for something. In the afternoon, thunder boomed in the sky, signaling the start of the ceremony. A tall altar had already been set up, standing in the center of the Stone City. Offerings were piled up. Experts presided over the ceremony, chanting scriptures. Countless people knelt on the ground, their hearts filled with grief. Many of the residents of the Stone City wept, remembering the Rock Emperor. Everyone knew that this was a sudden calamity for the devil religion. Without the Rock Emperor, this realm would have long since fallen and become a demonic realm. Today, there would not be so many survivors coming to the desolate nation to pay respects to the Rock Emperor. It was that young man who shouldered the greatest responsibility in this realm. In the end, he sacrificed his life to bring the demon god to the brink of death. Without him, Jiangchen might not have been able to kill the demon god. Farewell, Rock Emperor. Farewell, Rock Emperor. Deafening cries reverberated in the air above the stone city, echoing in all directions. Many creatures mourned. Chapter 2667. Congratulations to Huolei Laozu and Lei Tianhuang. On the altar, Du Tingxian and the others had already prepared the memorial tablets for Huolei Laozu and Lei Tianhuang. It was only because of their existence that Du Xiaofu was able to integrate the complete law of lightning and surpass the Sky Saint stage to fight against the demon god. Many of the strong people knew how important the two of them were in the catastrophe. While they came to pay respects to the Rock Emperor, they also remembered Huolei Laozu and Lei Tianhuang. Looking at this magnificent scene, Du Tingxian, Han Aodong, Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiong, and the others could not help but tear up. Although they had high hopes for the stone coffin in the Du family and hoped that Du Xiaofu would be able to wake up from it once again, in reality, none of them had much confidence in it. Therefore, in the face of so many strong people who came to pay respects to Du Xiaofu, they could not tell these people that Du Xiaofu might not die this time. Instead, countless cries of sorrow condensed into a strong feeling of grief that filled the hearts of every Du family member. Moreover, Huolei Laozu and Lei Tianhuang's spiritual intelligence had been destroyed and there was no hope for them to be reborn. As the countless people in the stone city paid their respects, a series of loud cries suddenly rang out from all directions. Rest in peace, Rock Emperor. Rest in peace, Huolei Laozu. Rest in peace, Lei Tianhuang. This vast voice reverberated through the sky, and the world seemed to be wailing faintly. Du Tingxian, Du Xiaoyao, and the others could sense through the power of their souls that a dense crowd had gathered in other parts of the desolate kingdom outside the stone city. They all knelt on the ground at the same time, calling out the Rock Emperor's name and sending him off. At this moment, all the citizens of the barren kingdom who had survived the catastrophe walked out of their residences and faced the direction of the stone city palace. They bowed 3 times and kowtowed 9 times to send them off. Farewell, Rock Emperor. Farewell, Huolei Laozu and Lei Tianhuang. The shouts continued to rise and fall, like monstrous waves, one after another, rising before the first wave had subsided. On this day, not only in the desolate kingdom, but also in various places across the 3 continents and Kyushu, there were people setting up incense burners and offering fruits to commemorate the death of the Rock Emperor. The continent of Kyushu, the ancient desolate continent, the Tianhuang continent, the Beast region, and the Demon world were all like this. At this moment, it seemed like they had returned to 7 days ago. The violet-robed young man stood in the air and descended upon the 9 heavens, receiving the worship of all the people in the world. Everyone in this world was chanting his name. Invisibly, wave after wave of strange ripples were generated from the living beings. Then, they spread out and flowed into the earth veins, converging into the desolate country's dragon veins, and then into the desolate country's imperial palace and into the seal of the desolate country. Swish, swish, swish. Within a hall in the imperial palace, Tyrant's shadow began to tremble and hum happily. Dense, golden light spread out and was constantly absorbed by it. The fine cracks on the sword began to silently close up. With the support of the surging draconic chi from the imperial palace, Tyrant's shadow looked completely new in just a short while. It shone brightly once more, no longer dull and dull. At the same time, a vast aura radiated from the royal palace of the desolate country, enveloping all the living beings in the stone city. Between heaven and earth, boundless spiritual energy gathered and lingered in the stone city. Powerful chi circulated, nourishing the physical body and primordial spirit of everyone here. What powerful draconic chi from the imperial palace! Sensing the ripples in the air, the experts couldn't help but feel extremely alarmed. Enveloped by the dense imperial palace's dragon chi, everyone felt that the flow of chi in their bodies had increased by a few notches, greatly benefiting them. If the great rock emperor was still around, then after this great calamity, just by relying on the imperial palace's dragon chi to fill his body, how powerful would he be? Some people sighed inwardly. Today's ceremony was no less than another worldwide pilgrimage. If the rock emperor was still alive, his cultivation would definitely be able to take another step forward. Unfortunately, the heavens were jealous of heroic geniuses. In the end, the rock emperor had fallen in the great calamity of the devil religion. The rock emperor's ceremony lasted for several hours. Only when the sky darkened did the crowd disperse one by one. During this process, many living beings had benefited greatly from the dense draconic chi from the imperial palace. During the great calamity, everyone had participated in the slaughter and had expended a lot of energy. Some were even seriously injured. However, after several hours, they had recovered quite a bit. Many experts didn't stay in the desolate country and left one after another. Their respective sects and families were still waiting to be rebuilt after the calamity. Those who had died in battle also needed to be buried one by one. The desolate country and the Du family sent many people to send them off from all sides of the stone city. After a day of hustle and bustle, the bustling stone city returned to its usual tranquility. In the middle of the night, there was a sudden downpour. Walala, it sounded like a torrential downpour. Ferocious thunderbolts roared crazily in the 9 heavens, tearing the night sky into pieces. This heavy rain showed no signs of stopping for a long time. Instead, it rained even more fiercely for 7 days and 7 nights. It was as if it wanted to wash away all the evil in the world. When the innate heavenly light shone brightly, the golden sunlight shone on the ground, creating a mottled mess. However, the scarlet blood that snaked across the ground had been washed away by the heavy rain. No one knew where it had flowed. The rivers were also filled with clear rainwater. Who exactly is Jiangchen? How was he able to kill the demon god? In a great hall in the desolate country's imperial palace, many experts were seated. East Immortal, West Yao, South Ru, North Addict, Zhong Shentong, Little Xingxing, Du Tingxian, Du Yunlong, Jialo Juiyu and other sky saints and half-step sky saints were all present. Yi Wuming, Murong Yorua, Ouyang Shuang, Dongli Qingqing, Hun Ji and the others accompanied them. In the face of Du Xiaoyao's confusion, everyone fell into a brief silence. Nobody could answer this question. They didn't know much about Jiangchen, but they knew about the legend of zombies. Jiangchen has long since cultivated the body of a golden rock. This time, he swallowed the demon god's primordial spirit. I wonder what kind of realm he'll reach. The Western demon spoke. Rumor has it that the most terrifying existences among the zombies are immortal and indestructible. They are cast out of the 6 paths of reincarnation by heaven and earth. When they cultivate to the peak, they can enter and exit the 2 realms of yin and yang. They can travel up the 9 heavens and down the netherworld. Although their bodies are lifeless, they are as free and unfettered as gods. Fu Yibai's eyes shone brightly on his sloppy face. Senior, what is the 6 paths of reincarnation? Where are the 2 realms of yin and yang? The mark on Little Xingxing's forehead flickered with a strange light. When they heard Little Xingxing's question, everyone looked at Fu Yibai, wanting to hear his answer. They'd all heard of the 6 paths of reincarnation, but they'd never truly understood them. Thus, at this moment, everyone expressed great interest. They'd long known that Fu Yibai's group of 5 had been sent to this realm by the ruler of the 3,000 realms to suppress the 9 great clans and resist the demon god. These 5 must have come from other realms. I believe all of you already know that outside of this realm, there are many other realms with countless experts. There are many living beings that are much stronger than the sky saints of this realm. Fu Yibai smiled. After all, everyone had long heard of the ruler of the 3,000 realms. Such a supreme expert also represented the existence of the 3,000 boundless worlds. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he paused for a moment before continuing. The realms evolved from the primal chaos. There are some that came first, some that came later, some that were strong, and some that were weak. Among them, the strongest 33 realms are collectively known as the 33 heavens. It's a place that all experts yearn for, and it nurtures countless powerful living beings. Under the 33 heavens, there are countless smaller realms. Among these smaller realms, there are some where only mortals live, and some like your realm, where living beings can cultivate to an extremely high realm. However, this kind of extremely high realm is only relative to those smaller realms. In addition, under the countless smaller realms, there are the 18 levels of hell. The 33 heavens, countless smaller realms, and the 18 levels of hell make up this entire realm. As for the 6 paths of reincarnation, to be precise, it's more like an invisible order and not a specific concept. When you go to the 33 heavens in the future, you will slowly understand. 33 heavens? The 18 levels of hell? Isn't it the 3,000 realms? Everyone was even more puzzled. The title of the ruler of the 3,000 realms was like thunder to everyone's ears, and they had heard Lu Xiaoyao's name from the demon god more than once. Behind him, there should be the 3,000 realms. Why would the 33 heavens and the 18 levels of hell suddenly appear? There didn't seem to be any deep connection between the two. Don't be anxious. With your strength, you're still able to understand these things. Actually, I was only asked by the ruler of the 3,000 realms to come to this realm to suppress the demon god. That's why I know more. When you go to the outside world and your cultivation increases, you will be able to come into contact with many things. Fu Yibai smiled mysteriously and didn't say anything else. Is the 6 paths of reincarnation and the invisible order the same as the heavenly Tao of this realm? Du Tingxian frowned and asked Fu Yibai. It's the same, but also different. As for the specifics, you will have the chance to know in the future. The suppression of this realm has already been removed. With your strength, you can naturally go to other realms at any time. Beside Fu Yibai, Dong Xian stood up and continued the conversation. Then what kind of existence is our realm in the entire great world? Du Yunlong straightened his body slightly, and his handsome face was full of seriousness. As soon as he said this, everyone's interest was piqued again. Everyone knew that this realm was suppressed. Even if the ruler of the 3,000 realms and the dragon god came, they wouldn't be able to display their strength and could only display cultivation that surpassed the heavenly saint realm. When Fu Yibai said that the suppression had been removed, it was only after the primordial war and the suppression of the demon god. Their current strength wasn't weak. Many of them had reached the perfected saint realm and were even half-step heavenly saints. Therefore, they wanted to know what level they would be at if they went to the outside world. In fact, your realm is a little special. Fu Yibai pondered for a moment and smacked his lips. His face was full of wrinkles as he said, strictly speaking, this realm can only be considered one of the countless small realms. But in other small realms, according to this realm's level, one only needs to be at the supremacy realm to go to the 33 heavens and other small realms. As for you guys, you need to be at least at the perfected saint realm. Supremacy realm. As Fu Yibai's words fell, everyone present was stunned as they looked at each other. They had reached the supremacy realm a long time ago. They didn't expect that cultivators in other realms would only need to be at the supremacy realm to go to the outside world. But in this realm, one needed to be at the perfected saint realm. The supremacy realm, domain realm, and saint realm were almost 3 major realms apart. The difference in strength was as far as the heavens and the earth. Then why is our world being suppressed? Du Xiaojing's red lips slightly opened as she asked. In other small realms, supremacy realm cultivators could go to the outside world. But in this realm, one could only break through the spatial shackles after reaching the perfected saint realm. It was obvious that they were suppressed. I'm not sure about that. Fu Yibai shook his head and said, then, with our strength, we can be considered absolute experts when we go to the outside world, right? Du Xiaoyao's eyes emitted a strange golden light as the corner of her mouth curled up slightly as she asked with a smile. Seeing his expression, little Xingxing, Du Xiaoba, and Du Xiaohuang curled their lips at the same time and sneered, Uncle Xiaoyao, are you thinking of going out to cause trouble again? There's nothing in this realm that can tempt you. If you want to cause trouble, go to the outside world. That's good too. A hint of a smile hung on the corner of Zhen Qingquan's mouth as he winked at Du Xiaoyao and said, "But no matter how one looked at it, it looked as if they were plotting something bad. After boss wakes up, let's go to the 33 heavens together and broaden our horizons." Du Xiaoyao raised her head and was indescribably pleased with herself. Everyone present rubbed their foreheads when they heard this. They felt a little worried. They knew that Du Xiaoyao and Zhen Qingchun were the same as Du Xiaofu. They had one bad idea after another. Wherever they went, there wouldn't be peace. They hadn't even gone to the outside world, but they were already thinking about the 33 heavens. Especially Du Xiaoyao. She said she wanted to go out and broaden her horizons, but in reality, wherever she went, it was like a locust swarm passing through. She took away all the good things. Probably in this realm, only Du Xiaofu could suppress her with such a habit. Tisk! Fu Yibai couldn't help but sneer when he heard Du Xiaoyao's words, and then he fiercely glared at Du Xiaoyao and Zhen Qingchun as he said with disdain, "Even though the two of you aren't weak, there are plenty of people with such cultivation bases in the 33 heavens. If you're blind enough to offend an expert, then they'll be able to slap you into pieces with a flip of their hand." As he said that, Fu Yibai's gaze couldn't help but stare at Du Xiaoyao. "Old man, who are you calling a monkey? I'm your second brother." Du Xiaoyao was enraged and said arrogantly. Fu Yibai was Du Xiaofu's little brother, so he was naturally his little brother. There was nothing wrong with this logic. "Monkey, are you itching for a beating? Do you want me to beat you up?" Fu Yibai glared and raised his hand to teach Du Xiaoyao a lesson. He was in the heavenly saint realm, and Du Xiaoyao was only a half-step heavenly saint. Wouldn't it be easy to teach him a lesson? When Du Tingxian and the rest saw the situation, no one stepped forward to mediate the fight. They couldn't help but snicker. They were happy to see the two of them make a fool of themselves. "Don't be angry, Uncle Old Bai. Tell us more about the outside world." Du Xiaolin, who was in Yangshuang's embrace, blinked his big eyes and said in a childish voice. But the moment he said that, Fu Yibai's face immediately turned green and he slowly lowered his hand. The people around him burst into laughter. They were very happy. The little Qilin's words were like a knife that stabbed Fu Yibai's heart. He really regretted that he had made that bet with Du Xiaofu back then. It was as if he had lost all of his reputation. "Little guy, do you know how to speak? Senior is telling us about serious matters." Yangshuang coughed and said with a serious gaze. A slender hand gently patted the little Qilin's head, pretending to hit him. When the experts heard that, they slowly retracted their laughter and put on a serious expression. After all, with Fu Yibai's age, he should be old enough to be everyone's grandfather. But facing the changes in everyone's expression, the greenish color on Fu Yibai's face didn't fade away for a long time. After a long while, he let out a long sigh and glared at Du Xiaoyao again. He wished he could use his eyes to stab him to death. Then, he said with a straight face, "What else do you want to know? Ask away." "Senior, the outside world has the 33 heavens and countless small worlds. What kind of place is the 18 levels of hell?" Jialo Juiyu straightened his expression and asked respectfully. His courteous manner instantly made Fu Yibai's expression look much better. "As for the 18 levels of hell, I can't say for sure. I only heard that it is the cruelest place in the world, filled with slaughter and blood. However, the 18 levels of hell are separated from the other worlds. Outsiders can't enter, and the people inside can't come out. The rumors of blood and slaughter in the 18 levels of hell can't affect the 33 heavens and the other small worlds. Therefore, to the outside world, that place was a mysterious place. Very few people knew what it was. Everything only existed in legends, and very few people could understand it clearly. Perhaps, only experts like the lords of the 3,000 great worlds and the dragon god would know." Fu Yibai said with a sigh. There were many things in this world that he couldn't come into contact with his strength. You have to stand at a certain level to see certain things. This principle was very applicable regardless of time and place. Chapter 2668. There are still such existences in the 18 layers of hell. Du Tingxian softly said with a hint of surprise. Many people in this world have already reached or even surpassed the perfection saint realm. They can break through the void at any time and go to other worlds. If you want to make more breakthroughs, you must go to the outside world because it is impossible to break through to the Sky Saint realm in this world. With your current strength, if you don't go to a place like the 33 heavens, you can naturally run amok. However, if you go to the 33 heavens, you must be careful and not provoke some experts or large factions. Those people are not to be trifled with. Fu Yibai exhorted everyone. Don't worry, senior. We are not reckless people. We know what to do. However, if you want to go, you must go to the 33 heavens. Even if you can be called a king in a small world, it is meaningless and will not have the slightest effect. It is better to just stay in this world. After all, there are even more powerful existences above the Sky Saint realm. Jialo Juiyu said softly as he slowly stood up from his chair. Hearing this, everyone else nodded and agreed with what Ling Xian said. Many of the people present had already reached the level of peak experts that the world could accommodate. As a matter of fact, people like little Xingxing stood at the very peak. They all yearned for the 33 heavens. The countless experts there also wanted to go and see for themselves. If they wanted to become even more powerful, they had to go through continuous tempering. In this world, they could only reach the Sky Saint realm at most, and it was difficult to surpass it. After all, since ancient times, only the Du family's ancestor had achieved this. In other words, Du Xiaofu had also surpassed the Sky Saint realm after using the lightning martial vein and fusing with all the spirit lightning. However, it was not because of his own efforts but because of external forces. Only by going to a place like the 33 heavens would they have hope of going further. Everyone present was one of the best in this world. Naturally, they were confident that they could reach a higher level. However, they were not arrogant people and knew that there was always someone better than them. The people of the 33 heavens were blessed by the heavens. Whether it was in terms of talent or resources, they were superior to the people of this world. Therefore, it was natural for those people to be powerful. Fu Yibai, Du Tingxian, Jialo Juiyu, and the others chatted for a long time in the hall before they gradually stopped talking. Everyone had learned more about the outside world from the 5 Sky Saint realm experts. From what the 5 heavenly saint experts had said, they found out that the 33 heavens was filled with various clans, various powers, and all sorts of experts contended for supremacy. It was an extremely prosperous and glorious era. Saint realm, Saint realm. Saint realm, Saint realm. Saint realm, Saint realm. Of Saint Saint realm. Saint realm. Saint realm, Saint realm. Saint realm, Saint realm, Saint realm. Saint realm, Saint realm of Saint realm. There were countless young outstanding talents. Among those young disciples who possessed great inheritances, there were still many who possessed talents like Du Xiaofu. Therefore, the creatures of this realm couldn't be said to be able to do whatever they wanted in the outside world. At most, they could only be considered to be in the middle. But even so, Du Xiaoyao, Jialo Juiyu, Yi Piaoling, Qin Guyu, and the others did not feel afraid. Of the many experts here, which one of them hadn't experienced numerous battles and killings before they slowly grew up? If they cowered just because someone was stronger than them, they would not be able to reach where they were today and stand at the top of this world. I can't remember how many years it has been since I came to this world. It's time to go back and see those old friends and visit those old places. After everyone sent East Deity, West Demon, Nenru, North Addict, and Central Divinity out of the hall, East Deity sighed. Master, you're leaving? Ouyang Shuang, Du Tingxian, and Dai Xingyu, who was following beside Murong Yorua, all asked reluctantly. We followed the 3,000 great world's lords to this world with the purpose of conquering the demon god. Now that the demon god is dead, our mission is naturally over. No matter what, we have our own clansmen. We can't not go back at this time. The beautiful woman in palace attire, Dong Xian, said with a smile. Then she fixed her gaze on Dai Xingyu and asked, Disciple, do you want to leave with me and go to the outside world first? This, Dai Xingyu was a little hesitant. She looked at the people around her, as if asking for their opinion. Obviously, she was unwilling to leave her master. If you want to go, go with your master. Murong Yorua held Dai Xingyu's hand and said with a smile. But big brother Xiaofu, Dai Xingyu was still hesitant, as if she was reluctant to leave. Don't worry, we're here in the desolate country. Your big brother Xiaofu will be fine. When he wakes up, we'll go to the 33rd heaven to look for you. Ouyang Shuang walked over to Dai Xingyu with light steps and stroked her head. She had watched this little girl grow up step by step. Ouyang Shuang was also a little reluctant to part with her. Dai Xingyu pursed her red lips and nodded heavily when she heard this. What about you? Is there anyone else who wants to go with us? If there is, go and prepare first. It doesn't matter if we wait a few more days. Nan Ru looked at everyone's faces and said, I won't go for the time being. I want to wait for my father. Little Xingxing clenched her fists and said seriously. It seemed that she was the most confident person that Du Xiaofu would wake up and be reborn. Me too. I'll wait for my boss. Du Xiaoru said. In fact, he was itching to go and kill his way into the 33rd heaven to see for himself. However, he was used to working with Du Xiaofu. If he went alone, he would feel that something was missing. After Du Xiaoyao finished speaking, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaojing, Du Yunlong and the others nodded one after another, indicating that they would stay in this world for the time being. There are still some things that need to be arranged in the desolate country and the 3 continents Kyushu. Once we're done with the arrangements, once Xiaofu really wakes up, we'll be able to leave immediately, Du Tingxian said. Alright. Fu Yibai and the other 4 nodded in agreement. Du Xiaofu's death had affected the hearts of everyone in the desolate country. If his death was not confirmed, these people would not be able to let go of everything and go to other worlds. Moreover, the calamity had just ended and the 3 continents Kyushu was still slowly rebuilding. The stone city had been repaired, but the desolate country still needed experts to preside over it for the time being. Let's go. We'll meet again in the future. East Deity, West Demon, South Ru, North Addict and Central Divinity turned around and faced the night sky. Together with Dai Xingyu, they slowly rose into the sky and prepared to leave. Master, where can we find you in the future? Ouyang Shuang rushed 2 steps forward and shouted. Little Shuang, when you go to the outside world, go to the scarlet sun bright clear sky. Master is there. Fu Yibai replied with a hearty laugh. Then he stretched out a finger and pointed at the void. At the same time, the tip of his tongue spat out a word like spring thunder, open. Boom, high in the sky, an invisible force exploded and destroyed everything. The huge explosion caused the entire world to tremble. The blue sky was falling and the thick earth was shaking. Within a radius of 10,000 miles, the rivers and rivers were standing up. The place where Fu Yibai's finger pointed had a terrifying crack in the void. It was like the giant mouth of a demon god or a door to a dark abyss. It covered the sky above the desolate country's stone city and caused countless living beings in the city to feel a chill down their spines. Within it yin and yang qi poured out and the power of a demon god was vast. Endless thunder roared as if it was going to destroy the world. Waves of strange auras surged out from the spatial rifts in the sky. Such an aura was completely different from that of this world. For many living beings in this world, it was a feeling they had never felt before. However, many experts in the desolate country's palace had seen the scene of the ancient emperor of the human race and the ancestor of the Baifeng divine bird clan breaking through the realm in the ancient desolate continent. They had seen such a scene before. However, today, their cultivation had increased greatly. The aura they felt from the crack in the void was naturally much clearer than before. Let's go! Fu Yibai's extremely sloppy clothes fluttered in the wind, giving him an otherworldly feeling. He took a step forward and in a flash, his figure disappeared from his original spot and entered the crack in the void. At the same time, East Deity, West Demon, Nenru, and North Addict also stepped out and followed closely behind Fu Yibai. Farewell, Master. Farewell, Seniors. Take care, Seniors. Below, Du Tingxian, Ouyang Shuang, and Jialo Juiyu bowed at the same time to send the 5 of them off. In fact, other than Du Xiaofu, Du Xiaoyao, and a few others, most people had a lot of respect for the 5 of them. After all, it was the 5 of them who had suppressed the 9 great families by themselves, especially the legalism, school of famous, school of vertical and horizontal. There was also the school of Buddhism. If not for their existence, the entire Du family would have been annihilated by the three great families. Perhaps in this world, only someone as thick-skinned as Du Xiaofu would be so thick-skinned as to extend his hand to the five of them and say, "Seniors, just give me whatever you want." When Du Xiaofu fought with the demon god, wasn't the brocade box used to resist the demon god's terrifying attack obtained through such a shameless method? Du Xiaojing, Zhen Qingchun, and the others looked up at the sky. The huge crack in the void was slowly closing and was about to disappear. However, just as it was about to completely disappear, they could vaguely hear a delicate voice coming from inside. "Fui Bai, if you dare to hide from me again, I'll turn your doghouse upside down." This voice was ethereal and vague, but it clearly reached the ears of everyone at the entrance of the hall. When this sentence was said, the huge crack in the sky had completely closed. The yin and yang qi that filled the sky gradually dissipated. The lightning was annihilated, and the sky became clear. "They're gone," Du Xiaojing softly said as he looked at this scene. 33 heavens. One day we will also go there. Zhen Qingchun murmured, his voice filled with yearning. "Of course. How can we miss out on such an exciting place?" Du Xiaoba clenched his fists, his young eyes filled with strong confidence. "Yes, we'll wait for my father to go together." Du Xiaohuang nodded her head fiercely with absolute certainty. "Everyone go and rest. You've exhausted too much in the great calamity. Recover well." Du Tingxian turned around, patted Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaohuang's heads, and said to everyone at the same time. Everyone nodded. Yi Piaoling, Qianguyu, Murong Yorua, and the others finally bid farewell and left. "I need to go into seclusion for a period of time to stabilize my half-step Heavenly Saint cultivation so that I can break through to the true Heavenly Saint realm as soon as possible." Du Xiaoyao also left after bidding farewell to Du Tingxian and the others. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, Ouyang Shuang, and the others did not stay any longer and dispersed. Time was like sand in one's hand. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. During this period of time, the entire Kyushu domain of the three continents was very peaceful. Before the Great Calamity, many factions and individuals would fight over some grudges or benefits. But after the Great Calamity, everyone put aside their past hatred. After all, everyone had fought side by side, and they were unprecedentedly united to fight against the devil religion. In the Great Calamity, some people even sacrificed themselves to the devil religion in order to save their former enemies. Thus, after this calamity that swept through the entire Kyushu domain of the three continents, many enemies had buried the hatchet. Some even turned hostility into friendship and became the closest of friends. This kind of thing was really unimaginable in the past. But recently, it had happened more than once or twice. In more than a month's time, the sects of the major factions had been rebuilt. However, every faction had lost a lot of experts, and their overall strength had been greatly impacted. But fortunately, there were still many people who survived in the end and continued the legacy of their sections. Among the 9 great clans, the school of legalism, the school of famous clans, and the school of vertical and horizontal suffered the most. Among them, the people of the school of legalism who refused to fight were directly killed by Du Xiaofu with the 9 cauldrons in his hand. Only Du Xiaofu's second uncle and elder Ming fought, but after a desperate battle, most of them had fallen. Du Xiaofu's second uncle and elder Ming also died under the blades of the devil religion. Only a few dozen people survived, and they were all people whose cultivation was not too strong. The school of famous clans and the school of vertical and horizontal were in a better situation. After all, except for a few ancestors of the perfect saint realm who were killed by Du Xiaofu, the rest of the people of these 2 families were safe and joined the battlefield. However, even so, these 2 families had lost more than half of their people and suffered heavy losses. However, those who survived were incomparably glad and secretly sighed that the person in charge at that time had not made a mistake. After all, if they had completely refused to fight, their outcome would have been the same as the people of the school of legalism. They would only have died at the hands of Du Xiaofu. The orthodoxies of these two families would naturally be wiped out in this world. The power of the 9 divine thunder cauldrons was simply too terrifying. Du Xiaofu is finally dead. Among the school of famous clans, Hui Wu sat at the front of the hall, gritted his teeth, and said hatefully. The aura on his body was somewhat weak, and there were some faint abnormal fluctuations. Obviously, he had suffered some injuries in the fierce battle. The enmity between the school of famous clans and Du Xiaofu had long been formed. Even if Du Xiaofu had forced him to fight against the devil religion, Hui Wu still hoped that Du Xiaofu would die. He is dead, but there are many experts in the desolate country now. They did not suffer too many losses in the great calamity. As for our school of famous clans, we have lost more than half of our people and are still no match for them. Beside Hui Wu, a white-haired old man said with a sigh. The foundation of the school of famous clans had been shaken, and the desolate country had risen too quickly in recent years. It had given birth to so many half-step heavenly saints, and even a heavenly saint expert like the Violet Dragon Emperor. Even if Du Xiaofu had fallen, the desolate country's strength was still not something the school of famous clans could touch. It's good that Du Xiaofu is dead. Let's not provoke the desolate country anymore. After the great calamity, our school of famous clans' strength has been greatly reduced. I don't know how many years it will take for us to recover. Hui Wu let out a long sigh and said to the old man beside him. He was not a fool. Why would he touch the desolate country's head? Their greatest enemy, Du Xiaofu, was already dead, and the great calamity had just passed. If they were to stir up trouble at this time, even if the school of famous clans had the strength to deal with the desolate country, they would definitely be attacked by all the living beings in this world. With the desolate country's rallying power, the school of famous clans would not be able to do anything unless they did not want to continue existing. We have arranged the best resources for the surviving disciples in the clan for them to cultivate and raise their strength as soon as possible. After the great calamity, perhaps there will not be any major turmoil in this world, but some small conflicts will definitely occur in the future. We need to have enough strength to reap more benefits. The white-haired old man said softly to Hui Wu. Just as the two of them were talking, a young man suddenly rushed into the hall and knelt in front of Hui Wu and the white-haired old man. He said with some excitement, "Divine Ancestor, the master clan of the upper world has replied." Hearing this, Hui Wu's eyebrows twitched fiercely. He could not help but ask, "What did they say?" "Divine Ancestor, the Master Clan has replied that they will send experts to this world to rebuild the school of famous clans' foundation in this world." The young man knelt on the ground and spoke quickly. "Mph." Hui Wu suddenly snorted coldly. His raised eyebrows instantly furrowed tightly. He clenched his fist and suddenly slammed it on the table beside him. With a boom, the stone table immediately turned into fine powder. Under the pressure of his aura, not even a speck of dust was stirred. Chapter 2669. Hui Wu's sudden rage scared the young man kneeling on the ground out of his wits. He crouched on the ground, not knowing why his ancestor was suddenly unhappy. Logically speaking, a letter from the Master Clan of the Upper Realm saying that they would send powerhouses to this realm should be a good thing for the entire famed clan. With the help of the Master Clan, the strength of the famed clan in this realm would definitely increase very quickly, and it would only be a matter of time before they surpassed the great calamity. In the face of Hui Wu's sudden rage, the white-haired old man next to him did not show any extreme actions. Instead, he waved his hand calmly at the young man below and said, "You can leave first." The young man hurriedly got up and ran out of the hall, trembling with fear. Before the great calamity, we clearly contacted them, but they just didn't give us a reply. Now that the great calamity has just passed, they're immediately sending people down. Do they have any respect for our realm? Hui Wu let out another thunderous roar as he angrily said, "The they?" Here was obviously referring to the Master Clan of the upper realm of the famed clan. The end of the great calamity naturally could not escape the prying eyes of the powerhouses of the upper realm. Before the great calamity, they also received the news from this realm. What made Hui Wu angry was that at that time, the Master Clan did not care about their lives at all. There was not even a reply, let alone sending people down to pick up the disciples of the famed clan. Moreover, the famed clan's perfected Saint Powerhouse wanted to escape because he was afraid of the great calamity, so he was forcefully killed by Du Xiaofu. On the contrary, only a month after the great calamity, the famed clan of this realm had suffered heavy losses, and the master clan was about to send people down. Their goal was nothing more than to take over this place and abuse their power in the name of the master clan. When he thought of this, Hui Wu's heart was filled with anger. I know what you're thinking, and so do I. Next to him, the white-haired old man sighed softly and said, but no matter what, that's the master clan of our famed clan. We have no choice but to obey the orders from above. Master clan my ass. Hui Wu gritted his teeth and cursed softly. Get ready to welcome the arrival of the powerhouses of the master clan. The white-haired old man let out another long sigh before turning around and walking out of the hall. Hui Wu sat alone for a long time before he took a deep breath, stood up, and left. He also knew that the white-haired old man was telling the truth. No matter how unconvinced he was, no matter how angry he was, he could only grit his teeth and swallow his blood. After all, that was the higher realm, the main race. In fact, the same thing happened in the school of legalism and the school of vertical and horizontal. In the next 2 to 3 days, the two families received messages from the upper realm one after another, stating that they would be sending powerhouses over. These bastards. Su Sanyan was also filled with hatred. However, in the end he did not curse out loud. His tightly clenched fists slowly loosened. Then he slumped into the chair, feeling indescribably powerless and dispirited. Legalism, on the other hand, was in a different situation. Their Saint Realm experts had all fallen, and only a few of them were left. They no longer had a strong backbone. Therefore, when they received the message from the upper realm, they were not as angry as Hui Wu and Su Sanyan. Instead, they were looking forward to it. Those who were still alive all started to get busy, preparing for the arrival of the powerhouses of the main race. Barren country, Stone City. In the ancestral house of the Du family, the stone coffin was still placed in the ancestral hall. It was not buried. For more than a month, Du Tingxian, Du Yunlong, Little Xingxing and the rest did not feel any changes in the stone coffin. It was very peaceful. With their current cultivation, even if they used the power of their primordial spirits, they could not peek into the stone coffin to sense the situation. Moreover, they did not dare to open the stone coffin to take a look. They were afraid that it would affect Du Xiaofu. Therefore, everyone could only wait quietly. However, slowly, some people started to become anxious. No one knew how long this situation would last. Perhaps there would be no more movements. Only the calmest ones were Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaohuang and Du Xiaolin. They had always vowed that their father and Uncle Xiaofu would definitely wake up again. In order not to think too much, many of the powerhouses of the barren country went into seclusion to continue recovering from the exhaustion and injuries from the calamity. On this day, Little Xingxing, who was in seclusion, suddenly opened his eyes. 2 balls of bright light shot out from his eyes. After that, his body suddenly leaped out and quickly disappeared without leaving behind the slightest fluctuation. In the next moment, his figure appeared in front of the ancestral hall of the Du family. He stood in front of the tightly shut door, his beautiful eyebrows slightly furrowed. In the sky, a bright moon hung diagonally, elongating Little Xingxing's figure. Swish, swish, swish. With Little Xingxing's arrival, Du Yunlong, Du Tingxian, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaojing Yipiaoling, Shenguyu, Zhen Qingchun, Du Xiaolin, and the other half-step heavenly saints all appeared out of thin air and gathered around Little Xingxing. So it wasn't an illusion. Did you feel it too? Du Tingxian clenched his fists tightly as he stared at the door of the ancestral hall. He did not move at all as he asked the people around him. Yes, I felt an undetectable ripple, but it disappeared in a flash. It felt like an illusion. Du Yunlong took a step forward and nodded. The others exchanged glances and nodded at the same time, indicating that they had felt the same ripple. Since we all felt it, it can't be an illusion. It's definitely real. Du Xiaoyao continued with an extremely serious expression. Father, it must be Father. Little Xingxing's eyes lit up as he could not help but become excited. His still rather young body could not help but tremble as the mark between his eyebrows became even more enchanting. Among the people, her cultivation was the highest as a heavenly saint, so the ripples she sensed were clearer than the others. Little Xingxing could clearly feel that there seemed to be something unusual happening in the stone coffin at this moment. However, even with her cultivation, the power of her soul was unable to pry into it and confirm it. However, she believed that something must have happened to Du Xiaofu. There was no need to think too much. As long as there was some movement, it had to be something good. This was exactly what everyone wanted to see. It's been over a month. Has there finally been some movement? Du Xiaojing stepped forward and said softly. However, her almond-shaped eyes immediately reddened as a crystalline light brewed within them. During this period of time after the great calamity, because of Du Xiaofu's death, everyone felt very uncomfortable in their hearts. Although Du Tingxian had placed Du Xiaofu's head in the stone coffin, hoping for a miracle, everyone knew in their hearts that this kind of hope was only a kind of hope. No one knew whether this kind of hope would be effective or not. At this time, the strongest people in their world had all felt the ripples in the sarcophagus, which meant that everything was developing in the direction they expected. This made everyone extremely excited, as if they were receiving orders. I miss Uncle Xiaofu. When will he wake up? Du Xiaoba's big eyes were red as he pursed his lips and said, although we have all noticed some unusual movements and the possibility of Xiaofu being resurrected is much greater, I'm afraid the process will not be too short. Therefore, we may need to wait for a few more days. Maybe a month, maybe a year, or even 10 years or 100 years. Du Tingxian silently suppressed his excitement and said aloud, let's wait. After he wakes up, we'll go to the 33 heavens together. Du Xiaoyao's eyes were bright as she said firmly, I'm going to seclude myself here and protect Dad until he wakes up. Little Xingxing did not say anything and directly sat cross-legged at the entrance of the Du family's ancestral hall. He closed his eyes and began to cultivate. Boss is at a critical moment and must not be disturbed. I'll also wait here and protect him. Du Xiaoyao walked to Little Xingxing's side and sat cross-legged at the same time. Elder Yi and the others are in the desolate country. We don't have much to do, so we'll also wait here. Du Yunlong, Du Xiaojing, Du Xiaolin, Yi Piaoling, Qingguyu, and the others also sat down and closed their eyes to adjust their breathing. Only Du Tingxian and Zhen Qingchun looked at each other and then stood there for a long time before finally leaving. Although Elder Yi and the others are here, the desolate country also needs someone to guard it. Let the two of us handle this mission. Although Du Tingxian and Zhen Qingchun also wanted to stay here and observe what might happen to the stone coffin, the two of them were relatively calm and did not forget their responsibilities because of their excitement. With Little Xingxing, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoba, and the other heavenly saints and half-step heavenly saints here, they were also very assured. In this current world, with their strength guarding this place, there was no need to worry about anyone coming to disturb Du Xiaofu. Whoosh whoosh, the night wind blew gently and everyone's hair fluttered gently. Time passed slowly, and the night passed just like that. The clear light of the morning sun shone on the ground and covered the entire stone city. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Du Yunlong, and the others were like tree stumps, still sitting cross-legged and cultivating. None of them could see what was happening in the stone coffin in the ancestral hall that was only a door away from them. The stone coffin was extremely dark, and there should not have been any light. However, it was in this darkness that a scarlet light suddenly appeared and flickered gently. The scarlet light hung on the side of the stone coffin, and it was extremely dazzling. However, all the light quickly receded and condensed into something that looked like a droplet of water. It was translucent, like blood. This droplet of water fell from the side of the stone coffin and rolled slowly. When it reached the flat bottom of the stone coffin, it still had no intention of stopping. As if it had its own consciousness, or as if it was being pulled by something, it swam toward Du Xiaofu's remaining head. The moment the translucent red water droplets came into contact with Du Xiaofu's head, it was as if they had come into contact with a piece of sponge, and they were instantly absorbed without a trace. However, Du Xiaofu's head, which had its eyes tightly closed, had a faint trace of redness on its pale face. The moment the translucent droplet of water was absorbed by Du Xiaofu's head, a magical wave was emitted, breaking through the barrier of the stone coffin and spreading outside. At the same time, everyone sitting cross-legged outside the Du family's ancestral hall opened their eyes at the same time with a swoosh. It's the same movement again. This is the second time. It can't be fake. Yi Piaoling's eyes focused as he looked at everyone and said, "In that case, last night really wasn't an illusion. There's hope for boss." Du Xiaoyao couldn't help but feel excited as he clenched his fist and said. Just as the two of them spoke, the space in front of them flashed, and Du Tingxian and Zhen Qingchun walked out. Obviously, they had sensed the movement again and quickly rushed over. The Du family's stone coffin is indeed extraordinary, Du Tingxian said softly, his eyes incomparably deep. It was his idea to put Du Xiaofu's head in the stone coffin. Many years ago, he already knew that this stone coffin was extraordinary and had a very mysterious origin. When he first heard Du Xiaofu talk about the origins of the Du family's ancestor and the Thunder Martial vein, Du Tingxian seemed to have a feeling that this stone coffin must be closely related to the ancestor. Therefore, after Du Xiaofu's death, he placed his greatest hope on this stone coffin. I don't know what kind of changes are happening in the stone coffin now. I'll make the arrangements. Before Xiaofu wakes up, this place will be listed as a forbidden area. Outsiders generally can't come in contact with this place, but the other disciples of the Du family must be grounded as well. We can't let anyone affect Xiaofu. Du Tingxian pondered for a moment before speaking. But, Grandpa and Uncle Qingchun, go ahead. We'll continue to guard this place. Little Xingxing nodded and said to Du Tingxian and Zhen Qingchun. But Du Tingxian and Little Xingxing didn't stay any longer and quickly left with Zhen Qingchun. After that, he immediately gathered the experts of the desolate country and the Du family in the main hall. Du Tingxian, Han Aodong, Ouyang Shuang, Yi Zijin, Yi Wuming, Murong Yorhua and the others were all excited when they heard about the movements in the stone coffin from Du Tingxian. A few women even shed tears. They all knew that the abnormal fluctuations coming from the stone coffin must have something to do with Du Xiaofu. Immediately after, Du Tingxian issued a ban. Before Du Xiaofu completely woke up, no one was allowed to set foot in the Du family's ancestral hall. Only a group of Heavenly Sage Realm and Half-Step Heavenly Sage Realm experts were allowed to guard there. In addition, this news was only known to the upper echelons of the desolate country. No one else was allowed to know about it for the time being. When everyone heard this, although they couldn't contain their excitement and wanted to go and see what was going on, they all suppressed it. After all, Du Xiaofu was at the most critical moment. If he was disturbed, the consequences would be unimaginable. This kind of situation could not be allowed to happen. In the following days, some of the upper echelons of the desolate country suddenly seemed to have changed into different people. After the great calamity, their heavy hearts were immediately released because of the fluctuations in the stone coffin. Many experts, whether it was doing things or cultivating, became much more relaxed. Drip. On the same afternoon, until the next morning, 3 drops of blood seeped out from the side walls of the stone coffin in the ancestral hall and were absorbed by Du Xiaofu. At the same time, the strange fluctuations were transmitted and sensed by a group of experts. Little Xingxing, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaolin, and the others sat cross-legged silently outside the ancestral hall, and they gradually got used to feeling such fluctuations, causing their emotions to slowly calm down greatly and not be as excited as they were at the beginning. They just waited quietly and gently sensed the changes. Everyone discovered that the intervals between the strange fluctuations were getting shorter and shorter. After a few more days, they would sense a wave of fluctuation every hour or so. This kind of situation became more and more frequent as time passed. In the end, all the fluctuations connected into one and continued to spread out. At this time, almost 2 months had passed since the end of the great calamity. No one could see that in the stone coffin, on top, bottom, left, right, front, and back, there were droplets of blood seeping out. Then, they flowed towards Du Xiaofu's remaining head and were absorbed. These droplets of blood seeped out faster and faster and gradually gathered into a small puddle. They flattened the bottom of the stone coffin and covered the back of Du Xiaofu's head. At this time, his face had become extremely rosy, and there was no difference between his skin color and his normal skin color. However, the droplets of blood continued to be absorbed. This situation continued until one day, the stone coffin was completely filled with blood and Du Xiaofu's head was immersed in it. When the last droplet of blood seeped out and merged with all the droplets of blood, the strange fluctuations also suddenly disappeared. In an instant, there were no longer any fluctuations. Little Xingxing, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoyao, Yi Piaoling, and the others immediately sensed this situation. It stopped. Did something change? Du Xiaoyao frowned and asked herself. I think Xiaofu must be at a turning point. Don't worry too much. Let's continue to wait. At this time, Du Tingxian stepped out of the void and said, Grandpa is right. Uncle Little Yao, you have to calm down. Let's just wait. You have to believe in my father. He will definitely return. Little Xingxing's little face was serious. He glanced at Du Xiaoyao and spoke like an old man. I'm just worried about boss. Du Xiaoyao pursed her lips and muttered. If someone else dared to look down on him, he would have rushed up and used his fists to argue with the other party. However, when facing little Xingxing, he did not have the courage. When that little girl was angry, she was not inferior to him at all. Everyone laughed at the bickering between little Xingxing and Du Xiaoyao. They did not think too much about it and continued to close their eyes and wait silently. Chapter 2670. Just as the experts of the desolate country were waiting for Du Xiaofu outside the ancestral shrine, some changes suddenly occurred in this world. On this day, there were no clouds in the sky for thousands of miles. The sky was clear and blue, clean and azure. Qi-la. But suddenly, an extremely terrifying crack spread out in the sky, spanning millions of miles. Within it, there was a strange aura erupting. It was like a surging wave, crashing into the wilderness. This strange aura was completely different from this world. It had an extremely dense spiritual energy fluctuation, as if it was emitted by a demon god. While it made people feel comfortable, they could not help but feel reverence. An expert has descended into this world. After Fu Yibai and the other four left, as the only heavenly saint expert in this world, little Xingxing naturally discovered this fluctuation immediately. After that, Du Xiaojiu, Shen Qingchun, Du Xiaoba, and the others quickly discovered it as well. Not only them, but in the entire Kyushu domain of the three continents, as long as one had reached the heavenly saint realm or above, they quickly learned of this situation. A spatial crack. This aura is very similar to when the ancient emperor left. Has an expert from the outside world come? In the ancient wilderness continent, the old emperor stood with one hand behind his back in the human race's divine palace. He looked at the huge spatial crack high in the sky and murmured. In the Beast Alliance's Beast King mountain range, many experts of the Baifeng divine bird clan stood in the air and quietly looked at the scene in the sky. To the people of the ancient wilderness continent, they had seen such an aura before. Therefore, they guessed that an expert had descended into this world. Rumble. With the appearance of the spatial crack, large amounts of yin and yang qi rippled out in the sky. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, rumbling and emitting an extremely terrifying aura. Boundless and vast aura surged and directly connected to the ground, causing the world to tremble. Some of the ordinary people who did not have any cultivation started to panic when they saw this scene. There were even some children who burst into tears in an instant, feeling extremely scared. Although this situation couldn't compare to the great calamity of the devil religion, it was still shocking enough on a normal day. I wonder who it is that came with such great fanfare. They don't know how to restrain themselves at all. This is much more impressive than the commotion caused by Fu Yibai and the others when they left. Outside the ancestral hall of the Du family, Du Xiaoyao curled her lips and said, her eyes shining with golden light. When Fu Yibai's group of 5 left, they created powerful ripples, but it was only sensed by the people in the desolate country. At this moment, the spatial crack in the sky was extraordinarily large. The surging yin and yang qis made the weaker living beings panic. Perhaps all the living beings in this realm, no matter where they were, could clearly sense this scene. I don't care who he is as long as he doesn't disturb us. Du Yunlong sat cross-legged on the ground and didn't move. If he dares to strut around in my desolate country, no matter who he is, I'll make sure he won't be able to return. Beside Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling's cold face suddenly emitted an intense killing intent. The great calamity of the devil religion had just passed not long ago. Those people probably didn't descend to this realm to play. Now that Du Xiaofu was at a crucial moment, the consequences would be too severe if he was disturbed by them. As the leader of the 18 heavenly generals, Yi Piaoling absolutely could not tolerate such a situation. They should be people from the 33 heavens. I just don't know what their goal is for coming at this time. Du Xiaojing added from the side, a trace of worry brewing in her beautiful eyes. After all, if the people who came were too powerful, it would be difficult for them to deal with them. However, no one was overly worried. No matter what, the world of this realm was suppressed. Even if the lords of the 3,000 great worlds and the dragon god came, they could only display strength surpassing the heavenly saint realm. If it were an ordinary person, being suppressed to the heavenly saint realm was already good enough. If that was the case, although the desolate country would have a hard time dealing with it, it would definitely not be at the mercy of others. Who cares what they do, as long as they don't provoke us? Right now, I don't have the time to care about those people. Little Xingxing raised his eyelids and said. Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. To the people present, there was nothing more important than Du Xiaofu's situation. No matter who came from the outside world, as long as they didn't come to the desolate country to cause trouble, they would let them be. Just as the people of the desolate country were talking, the huge spatial crack high in the sky changed again. Rays of light flashed, and dozens of figures appeared one after another, entering the space. Huff, huff, huff. Just as the dozens of people stepped out of the spatial crack, it emitted a strong fluctuation and slowly converged, about to close. However, before it could completely close, there was a ripping sound in the distance, and the spatial crack burst open again. Violent chi leaked out, enshrouding heaven and earth. Ripping. Just as the second crack appeared, a third one appeared, drawing a long hole in the sky. It was like the huge mouth of a demon god, ferocious and terrifying. Dozens of figures shot out from the second and third cracks, and they truly stepped into this world. Gong Sun Quan, Su Qixing, your family and your family are here too. Among the dozens of people who walked out of the first crack, a middle-aged man with a broad head said to the two people who walked out of the second and third cracks. The middle-aged man stood in front of the dozens of people, and it seemed like he was the leader. Qin Yuansheng, if your legalism is here, why can't my family come? In the second group, a man in his 40s said disdainfully. The man's expression was cold, and his brows were slightly furrowed. He was the Gong Sun Quan that the first person had mentioned. You've just arrived in this world and you want to compete? If you don't mind, I'll be happy to be your judge. In front of the dozens of people on the other side, the person called Su Qixing laughed and said. He was an extremely fat man. Just by standing there, he was like a ball of meat, emitting a heavy aura. The fat man smiled, but his small eyes shot out light from time to time. He was like a poisonous snake, ready to attack at any time. We have a heavy responsibility on this trip. When we're done, we'll definitely go and ask for advice. Gong Sun Quan glanced at Qin Yuansheng and said indifferently, although the creatures in this world are much stronger than the other small worlds, they're still too weak compared to the 33 heavens. Is being sent here to rebuild the foundation of my legalism a heavy responsibility? I think it's more like being exiled. Qin Yuansheng's brows rose with a gloomy expression. Obviously, being sent to this world made him very dissatisfied. Hearing this, Gong Sun Quan and Su Qixing nodded slightly. At the same time, the three of them scanned many places in this world with the power of their primordial spirits, spying on the traces left behind by the great calamity. This world is not weak. From my observation, there are many experts. Using the realm of their world to measure, it should be called the Saint Realm. After a long while, Su Qixing said thoughtfully. Under his perception, there were many vast and deep auras that were not much weaker than his. If we hadn't been suppressed immediately when we came to this world, their saint realm would be nothing. They're just trash that can be destroyed with a flip of the hand. Qin Yuanshang said disdainfully, as if he didn't care about the cultivation of the creatures in this world. Their saint realm is also divided into strong and weak. Although we're suppressed, at least we still have the strength of the saint realm perfection. In this world, there should be such cultivators, but there definitely aren't many of them. Gong Sun Quan of the School of Vertical and Horizontal said, his gaze sweeping across the various places under his feet. I really don't know how such a world could escape the great calamity brought by the demon god. How did they do it? Su Qixing of the School of Famous was a little puzzled. He frowned and said thoughtfully, "What's so strange about this? Someone arranged it many years ago. With the help of that Lu. With the help of those two people, if this world can't fight against the demon god, then it deserves to be reduced to a demon's domain." Qin Yuanshang said, pausing in the middle. It seemed that he had some scruples about those two people and was unwilling to mention their actual names. In fact, when he said this, many people, including Su Qixing, Gong Sun Quan, and the dozens of experts behind the three of them, were stunned, as if they were extremely afraid. Previously, I received news from people in this world that there's a force called the Desolate Country in this world. It's very powerful. I wonder how many experts are left after the battle with the demon god. After a while, Su Qixing spoke again. I also heard that the Rock Emperor of the Desolate Country, known as the Demon King Du Xiaofu, is young, but his cultivation is not weak. It seems that there's a lot of conflict between our legalism and him. Qin Yuanshang said, "It's not just legalism. Our School of Famous and your School of Vertical and Horizontal have deep hatred for that kid. I really want to go to the Desolate Country and see the true face of that Demon King Du Xiaofu. I want to see if he has 3 heads and 6 arms and how many moves he can take." As Gong Sun Quan spoke, he retracted his gaze from Su Qixing. The gloomy expression on his face deepened. However, his tone was a little flat. His focus was on the Demon King Du Xiaofu, and he was not interested in how many people from his family had died at the hands of the other party. That Du Xiaofu must have been arranged by that person. I'm afraid his strength is not to be underestimated. We're new here, so it's better for us to keep a low profile. Once we understand the specific situation, we'll make plans for the next step. Su Qixing of the School of Vertical and Horizontal was very cautious as he spoke softly. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. That Demon King Du Xiaofu was able to stand at the top of this world, and was also the person chosen by that person. He must have his own extraordinary qualities. It would not be easy to deal with him if they provoked him. As the three of them spoke, they led the people behind them and descended from the void. The 3 spatial rifts that occupied the sky had already closed. However, right after they descended to midair, before they could even reach the ground, the sky above them began to crack again. Chi-chi-chi, spatial rifts spread, and the faint sound of wind and thunder could be heard. However, the commotion caused by this scene was much smaller than the commotion caused by the 3 people's arrival earlier. The crack appeared suddenly, but it quickly disappeared, disappearing without a trace. At the same time, a large number of people walked out from each of the rifts. I didn't expect such a coincidence. The School of Agriculture, School of Confucianism, School of Taoism, School of Yin-Yang, School of Buddhism, and School of Moism are all here. Seeing the appearance of these people, Su Qixing laughed and said again, "Amit ba." Among the several forces there was a group of bald monks. An old monk among them chanted the name of Buddha loudly, but he did not respond to Su Qixing's words. Legalism, school of thought, school of martial arts, you're one step faster than others. Among the people who came, a scholarly man holding a feather fan chuckled and said, "Indeed, we're fast enough. We broke through the void and seem to have noticed a huge commotion. Why did you come to this world to show off your power?" A hale and hearty old man in a Taoist robe said. As he spoke, he kept stroking the slender beard under his chin. "I heard that the 3 of you were beaten up badly in this world. This time, you brought so many people. Don't tell me you're here to get beaten up again?" On the other side, Another young man with eyes as bright as stars raised his eyebrows and said. The way he looked at Qin Yuanshang, Gong Sun Quan, and Su Qixing seemed to have some pity or ridicule in his eyes. Sun Yufang, Qian Shuzi, Qi Xinglong, what's the meaning of this? If you want to fight, I, Qin Yuanshang, will accompany you at any time. The legalism Qin Yuanshang could not help but shout as he pointed at the three people who had spoken before. Hearing this, Gong Sun Quan and Su Qixing's faces darkened at the same time. Although they did not care about the life and death of the people of the branch families in this world, when the three people mentioned it, it was like a slap to their faces. Do you think we're afraid of you? It just so happens that the person who beat you has a good relationship with the branch families of our Confucianism in this world. If you want to show off your power here, I don't mind helping him to teach you a lesson. The scholarly man waved the feather fan in his hand a few times and then said with a cold snort. He was Sun Yufang, whom Qin Yuanshang mentioned. That's right. Du Xiaofu has a good relationship with our school of Taoism. This time, we're planning to go back and meet him. Why don't we teach you a lesson first? I think he'll like this meeting gift. Qian Shuzi of the school of Taoism also said with a smile, looking unfathomable. Needless to say, the school of Yin Yang. I heard that one of the most talented girls in our family was taken away by Du Xiaofu. I'm also very interested in him and want to give him a gift before we meet. It's a good idea to beat you black and blue and hand you to him. Qi Xinglong of the school of Yin Yang said with a smile. If you want to fight, can the school of agriculture also join in? The more the merrier. In the camp of the school of agriculture, there was a young man who could not help but interject weakly in the face of the confrontation between the legalism, the school of Yin Yang and the school of Taoism. The young man's face flushed red, as if he was very shy in front of these older generation experts and was too embarrassed to speak loudly. The school of Mo would also like to join in this fun. What do you think? In the school of Mo, a burly man suddenly took out a large saber and weighed it in his hand and said, Of course you're welcome to join in the fun. I wonder which side do you two want to stand on? Qi Xinglong cupped his hands and asked the young man and the burly man with a smile. However, from his smile, it seemed like he had a card up his sleeve. Our farmer's branch family has a very good relationship with the great rock emperor. Of course, the more friends we have, the better. Although we came from the main family, it's best if we can continue this friendship. We can't disgrace the branch family. The young man named Zhou Qinglian blushed and said with a dry smile after bowing to Qi Xinglong. The same goes for the school of Mo. The large saber in Hu Sandao's hand trembled slightly as he snorted. If you want to fight, you'll have plenty of chances in the future. Let's forget about it today. We still have important matters to attend to. Moreover, everyone's strength is suppressed in this realm. We can't do anything at all. We'll settle this in the future. Su Qixing of the school of vertical and horizontal narrowed his small eyes. His tone was very calm, but there was an extreme coldness in his words. He wasn't stupid. The school of Confucianism, the school of Taoism, the school of Yin Yang, the school of agriculture, and the school of Mo had all expressed their opinions. Only the school of Buddhism stood aside and didn't say anything. The school of legalism, the school of famous names, and the school of vertical and horizontal combined were no match for the other five. Everyone's cultivation was suppressed to the peak of the Saint Realm consummate, so there wasn't much difference in their strength. If they were to fight now, it would be 3 against 5. It would be no different from asking for a beating. The school of famous names will remember what happened today. Gong Sun Quan of the school of famous names snorted coldly. With a flick of his sleeve, a tyrannical force swept out, enveloping the dozens of people behind him and quickly leaving. Everyone, it's a small world. We'll meet again someday. Let's go. Qin Yuanshang was the first to move. He led the school of legalism and left. We're leaving too. Su Qixing stared at Sun Yufang, Qian Shuzi, Qi Xinglong, Zhou Qinglian, and Hu Sandao with a venomous gaze. Then, he led the school of vertical and horizontal and broke through the void and left. Sun Yufang of the school of Confucianism looked at the 3 leaving and suddenly laughed. Scholars are indeed full of evil tricks. Qian Shuzi of the school of Taoism said with a smile. If you're not evil, how can you establish yourself in the 33 heavens? Speaking of which, you're not any better. Sun Yufang smiled slightly and said softly, Everyone let's go. After we're done with this, we'll go to the desolate nation to take a look. I'm very curious about that kid. Qi Xinglang of the school of Yinyang said. Then he cupped his hands at the others. He raised his sleeve and scattered starlight that covered the sky, covering the people behind him. When the starlight disappeared, the dozens of people were also gone. Chapter 2671. The experts of the 9 great clans had arrived in this realm. After a round of confrontation, they all left to find their own branch families. When they arrived in this realm, everyone's cultivation was suppressed to a certain extent. The leaders could only have the strength of an ordinary Saint Realm consummate. Therefore, after the arrival of the 9 great clans, their every move did not escape the senses of little Xingxing, a heavenly saint expert. The scene of Confucianism, the school of agriculture, the school of Moism, the school of Yinyang, and the school of Taoism joining forces to challenge legalism, the school of famers, and the school of vertical and horizontal made little Xingxing smile. Those people might be considered experts in the outside world, but after being suppressed in this realm, compared to Du Xiaoyao, Du Yunlong, and the others of the desolate country, they were not enough. Therefore, the 10 or so heavenly saints and half-step heavenly saints of the desolate country had been sitting cross-legged outside the ancestral hall of the Du family, silently guarding Du Xiaofu. As long as the people of legalism, the school of famers, and the school of vertical and horizontal did not come looking for trouble, they would be happy to have peace and would not take the initiative to look for trouble. After all, the grudges were over. Those 3 families had also contributed in the great calamity and had suffered heavy losses. As long as the other party did not come looking for trouble, what harm was there in letting bygones be bygones? However, the actual situation was very different from what little Xingxing and the others had expected. At this time, Qin Yuanshang and dozens of people had already arrived in the legalism branch. The branch family of legalism in this realm only had dozens of people left. Faced with the arrival of a large group of experts, these people all knelt on the ground in fear and excitement, respectfully welcoming the experts of the main family. I am Han Tsang, leading the branch family of legalism to welcome the divine ancestors. On the ground, an old man with a white beard said respectfully to Qin Yuanshang and the others, his face almost touching the ground. Divine ancestor? After hearing this name, Qin Yuanshang was stunned for a moment, and then he laughed strangely. He couldn't help but sigh at the narrow-mindedness of the creatures of this world. In their eyes, the strongest was only the Saint Realm. Whether it was the initial stage of the Saint Realm or the Heavenly Saint Realm, these people all called them divine ancestors. But in truth, with Qin Yuanshang's true strength in the 33 heavens, he was far stronger than the heavenly saints of this world. Get up, Qin Yuanshang said indifferently. He glanced at the old man and knew that he was a cultivator of the one martial domain realm. Among the dozens of survivors of the legalism, he was the strongest. Thank you, holy ancestor. After the old man who called himself Han Tsang thanked him, he stood up with the dozens of people behind him. So weak? According to the level of this realm, there isn't even a single Saint Realm expert. Qin Yuanshang quickly discovered that among the dozens of people kneeling in front of him, other than the old man, there were only 2 other people in the martial domain realm. The rest were even weaker. This caused him to frown slightly, and he seemed to be slightly stunned. Logically speaking, this world was very special. Although it couldn't be compared to the 33 heavens, it should be much stronger than the other small worlds. With the foundation of the legalism in this world, there should be at least dozens of Saint Realm cultivators. But now, there wasn't even a single Saint Realm expert, let alone someone stronger. Are you the only ones left of the legalism branch? Facing the old man Han Tsang, Qin Yuanshang walked into the legalism with his hands behind his back. As he walked, he asked without looking back. Divine ancestor, these are the only ones left. Too many died in the great calamity of the devil religion. In addition, most of them were Han Sung replied, but in the end he couldn't continue, as if he was afraid of something. By what? If you have something to say, say it. Don't hesitate. Next to Qin Yunsheng, a young man who also came from the upper realm glared at Han Sung and shouted angrily. He was very unhappy. Han Sung was immediately shocked. He was intimidated by the other party's fierce aura, and beads of sweat instantly appeared on his forehead. He trembled and stammered. Because of the great calamity of the devil religion, most of the legalism refused to fight, and they were all killed by the Rock Emperor. What? Qin Yuanshang's voice suddenly became sharper. He said in great surprise, "You mean, most of them didn't die because of the great calamity of the devil religion, but died at the hands of Du Xiaofu?" Han Sung bowed, thought for a moment, and replied, "The Rock Emperor has the 9 divine thunder cauldrons left behind by the Lord of the 3,000 sectors. He ordered the 9 families to kill anyone who disobeyed. What a good Du Xiaofu. He's quite impressive." Qin Yuanshang's expression turned cold when he heard this. He turned to ask Han Sung, "Legalism is a whole. Since they refused to fight and were killed by Du Xiaofu, why are you all fine?" Divine Ancestor, the Rock Emperor's mother, is a person of legalism. Therefore, during the Great Calamity, the Han family all went to fight under the leadership of their second uncle, while the Li family and the Qin family refused to fight. Thus, they were killed. The entire legalism was razed to the ground by the purple lightning cauldron. Han Sung said respectfully. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Qin Yuanshang's expression immediately became uglier. "You mean only the Han family is alive now, and the Qin family and the Li family both died at the hands of Du Xiaofu?" Qin Yuanshang's broad forehead faintly bulged with blue veins, as if he was brewing anger. Feeling Qin Yuanshang's anger, Han Sung bowed even deeper. "Bastard!" Qin Yuanshang stopped walking and cursed loudly. He was unable to restrain his anger. Du Xiaofu is really quite impressive. Does he think that just because he has the support of that Lu fellow, he can do whatever he wants to the school of legalism? While he shouted, Qin Yuanshang no longer cared about the taboo of the words, Lu Gai. Instantly, his mind was blinded by anger. In this world, the Qin family of legalism was also related to him by blood. If they had died under the great calamity and the devil religion, he could accept it. He never thought that with so many people, besides the Qin family and the Li family, all of them had been killed by that Du Xiaofu. This was simply going too far. Uncle Yuanshang, that Du Xiaofu is really bold. Does he really think that our legalism is easy to bully? If we don't teach him a lesson, he truly thinks that with the support of Lu Xiaoyu and Long Xian, he can rebel. That young man next to Qin Yuanshang shouted, and his expression was also unsightly. He was from the Li family. He could not help but feel angry when all of his family members were killed in this world. However, as soon as the young man finished speaking, he only heard a crisp pa sound next to his ear. Immediately after, he felt a burning pain on his face. Apparently, someone had given him a hard slap. "You bastard, do you think you can call out the names of those two? If you want to die, go ahead and blow yourself up. Don't drag our legalism down with you." Qin Yuanshang's face was incomparably ashen. He clenched his hand that had slapped him as if he wanted to choke this young man to death. Even he didn't dare to mention Lu Xiaoyu and Long Xian's names directly. Occasionally, he could only use those two as a replacement. Just now, in a fit of rage, he said the 3 words surnamed Lu. However, this kid had called them out so loudly as if nothing was taboo. Although it was not to the extent of being heard by those two, Qin Yunshang could not help but tremble in fear and panic for those 2 fiends. "Uncle Yunshang." The young man covered his face as if he had been wronged, but he did not talk back. Qin Yunshang let out a long sigh and said with a serious expression, "All right, don't mention them again in the future. Even the strongest person in our legalism doesn't dare to provoke those 2, let alone you and me." He paused for a moment and changed the topic. Legalism's debt should indeed be settled with Du Xiaofu. However, since he is the chosen one and has the ability to defeat the demon god, I'm afraid his strength is not simple. Therefore, we will remember this grudge first. It won't be too late to take revenge in the future. After Qin Yuanshang finished speaking, Han Song, who was standing respectfully at the side, hesitated for a moment. However, in the end, he unexpectedly said, "Divine Ancestor, the Rock Emperor has fallen in the battle with the demon god." Qin Yuanshang was stunned as if he did not hear clearly. He hurriedly asked, "Say it again." "Divine Ancestor, a few months ago, the Rock Emperor paid the price of his life and perished together with the demon god." Han Song's old face was full of respect as he bowed to Qin Yuanshang. The young man beside Qin Yuanshang also widened his eyes in disbelief as he stared blankly at Han Song. However, Qin Yuanshang suddenly began to laugh loudly. "Ha! He's dead. That's wonderful. I was still wondering how the demon god could be so easily killed by a brat with his strength. It turns out that he risked his life for the demon god. With the arrangement of those two, this ending should be enough. Uncle Yuanshang, that Du Xiaofu killed so many people from legalism. If this debt is not settled, how can legalism have the face to establish itself in this world? Why not just abandon the foundation here? Why bother to rebuild it?" The young man also came to his senses and gritted his teeth as he spoke to Qin Yuanshang. "That's right. Du Xiaofu is dead. I want to settle this debt now." Qin Yuanshang clenched his fists tightly as he spoke with a ferocious expression. If Du Xiaofu was still alive, with his strength that could fight against the demon god, they would have to think twice if they wanted to provoke him. However, he was indeed dead. What did they, who came from the upper realm, have to fear? Du Xiaofu dared to kill people from legalism. Doesn't he have a barren country himself? How legalism is treated in this world. I'll give them a taste of their own medicine and destroy them." Qin Yuanshang said viciously as his eyes shone with a fierce light. "The Divine Ancestor, there are still many powerful people in the barren country." Han Song spoke up at the right time and interrupted. "How is the strength of those powerful people compared to Du Xiaofu before he died?" Without waiting for Qin Yuanshang to speak, the young man raised his eyebrows and asked. "This," Han Song deliberated for a while before saying, "those people are naturally far inferior to the Rock Emperor." "Then it's settled. We've heard a lot about Du Xiaofu's deeds in the upper realm. Without his existence, can the barren country still be called the barren country?" The young man spoke arrogantly and was indescribably proud of himself. After all, they came from the 33 heavens. Because the living beings in this world were from a small world, how strong could they be? This time, Han Song was stunned by the question and did not answer for a long time. "I can't wait to go to the barren country. Although Du Xiaofu is dead, someone has to bear the consequences and pay the price for what he did." Qin Yuanshang clenched his fists and said coldly, "Uncle Yuanshang, let's go now." The young man said, "All right. However, to be safe, let's discuss with Gong Sun Quan and Su Qixing first. If they're willing, we can work together. No matter how powerful the barren country is, it's impossible for it to withstand the combined forces of the three of us. When the barren country is destroyed, the School of Agriculture, School of Moism, School of Yin-Yang, School of Confucianism, and School of Taoism will have no reason to say anything." As Qin Yuanshang spoke, he waved his sleeve at the dozens of people from the upper realm and said, "Let's go." "Divine Ancestor," Han Song stretched out his hand, wanting to stop them and say something, but those people left too quickly. Just as he spoke, the ripples in the void had already stopped. The silhouettes of the dozens of people also disappeared. "Something big is going to happen. What should we do?" Han Song was so anxious that he stomped his feet, but there was nothing he could do. He really wanted to rush up and say that although the barren country's Rock Emperor was dead and the others were not as strong as him, they were still very difficult to deal with. Among those people, there was a heavenly sage realm and many half-step heavenly sage experts. With the current strength of the people from legalism, no one could catch up to them. I hope the Divine Ancestor and the others are strong enough to defeat the people from the barren country. Han Song thought to himself. Qin Yuanshang and the others came from the upper realm. After being suppressed here, if they still had the strength of a half-step heavenly sage or a heavenly sage, It should not be too difficult for them to protect themselves against the people from the barren country. However, Han Song and the others were unable to see through the true cultivation of the dozens of people from the upper realm. As for the final result, he could not judge. He only knew that something big would definitely happen. Qin Yuanshang and the others did not delay and moved quickly. They even split into two groups. One group was led by him and went straight to the school of vertical and horizontal, while the other group was led by the young man and went to Zhongming. These experts could not wait and kept rubbing their hands together as if they wanted to show off their skills. The two groups were very lucky. Before they reached the school of famous and vertical, they had already met up with Gong Sun Quan and Su Qixing. As it turned out, the two groups of famed scholars and school of vertical and horizontal experts from the upper realm had actually broken through the air on their way to the branch family. Facing the broken mountains and rivers of this world, as well as the gigantic lake formed by the demonic god's footprints, they were deeply shocked by the demonic god's strength. Although they didn't waste too much time because of this, it gave Qin Yuanshang and the young man the opportunity to intercept them midway. After hearing the reason of the people from legalism, Gong Sun Quan, as the leader of the school of famous, agreed without any hesitation. He was willing to deal with the barren country with the legalism. On the other hand, Su Qixing from the school of vertical and horizontal thought deeply for a while. In the end, he finally nodded under Qin Yuanshang's repeated persuasion. As a result, the three groups quickly gathered together and went straight to the barren country. Each of them brought dozens of people with them. The three groups added together had about 160 to 70 people. Among these 100+ people, more than half of them were above the Saint Realm, and there were more than 100 of them in this world. With such strength, wouldn't they be able to do whatever they wanted in this small world? Although this small world was different from other small worlds, it was a little special. That Du Xiaofu has a deep hatred for the branch families of our three families in this world. With his death, the rest of the people in the barren country are no longer a concern. However, they have to pay the price for what they have done to our three families. If we can't raise the barren country to the ground, we might as well leave this world. We don't have the face to continue staying here. As the group hurried along, Gong Sun Quan's expression was very cold. He could not wait to appear in the barren country. Brother Gong Sun is right. That Du Xiaofu has always looked down on our three families because he has some ability. With that person backing him up, he became even more unscrupulous. This time he is dead. However, the people of the barren country will have to pay for this debt. Qin Yuanshang said. His words were filled with cold, killing intent. On the contrary, Su Qixing, who was walking side by side with the two of them, did not reply. He only ran silently. No one knew what was on his mind. In this small world, almost all living things knew about the existence of the barren country. Therefore, to the people of the school of legalism, the school of famous scholars, and the school of vertical and horizontal, if they wanted to find the location of the barren country, they could easily find someone to interrogate. After passing through the void tunnel, the three groups of people did not take too long to reach the borders of the barren country. This is the place. The capital of the barren country is called Stone City. It shouldn't be far. Let's go. Gong Sun Quan waved his hand and once again entered the void. He led more than 100 people and rushed towards the capital of the barren country with murderous intent. Chi chi chi, a violent spatial fluctuation spread out. Finally, one figure after another walked out of the void. Every one of them exuded a powerful aura. At first glance, it was obvious that they did not come with good intentions. The appearance of this group of people caused many of the weaker cultivators and commoners in the Stone City to panic. They had to look up to such an existence. Who are those people? They don't seem to know how to restrain themselves. Although they looked up, none of the residents of the barren country showed any signs of panic. After all, this was the barren country. If anyone dared to behave atrociously and come to the barren country to show off, they would have to bear the consequences. As for the experts in the barren country, all the residents of the barren country knew that none of them were to be trifled with. Chapter 2672. In fact, little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaolin Yipiaoling, and Du Xiaojing had already noticed the spatial ripples outside the Du family's ancestral hall before the three schools of legalism, school of famous names, and school of vertical and horizontal flew out. One by one, the experts woke up from their meditation and opened their eyes. Legalism, school of famous names, and school of vertical and horizontal. It seems like they still haven't given up. Du Yunlong said nonchalantly among the crowd. That's quite a lineup, but they don't seem to be very strong. Du Xiaoyao curled his lips and said disdainfully. With those people's strength, there was no need for them to do anything. Han Ji, Ouyang Shuang, Elder Lei, Du Xiaoqing, Little Tiger, Dongfang Qingmu, Yi Zijin, and many other Saint Realm experts were still in the desolate country. Apart from Yi Piaoling and Qingguyu, 16 of the 18 celestial generals were also guarding the palace. There were at least dozens of Saint Realm experts in total. Moreover, there were also 2 half-step heavenly saints, Du Tingxian and Jin Qingchun, holding the line. If those 3 schools really came to cause trouble, the result would be obvious. Sure enough, after more than 100 people broke through the air, figures shot out from various places in the Stone City one after another. They rushed into the air and confronted those people. Mo Tianxiao, Nether Demon, Yelu Han, Du Fenshin, Old Monster Green Fox, Du Xiaoman, Yi Wuming, Lei Yang, Bing Toad, and Fei Yu were all among them. Let's watch first. If they really want to fight, we'll accompany them when the time comes. Little Xingxing, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaohuang, and the others did not move. They still sat quietly outside the Du family's ancestral hall. Even Du Tingxian and Jin Qingchun did not appear. It was not time for them to make a move yet. In the Stone City, many residents stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky, beginning to discuss. Look, there are so many experts. Where did those people come from? They actually came to the desolate country with such fanfare. It seems like they are here to cause trouble. How dare you not walk into Stone City after coming here? How dare you disrespect the Rock Emperor? Damn you! If I had the strength, I would beat them up one by one and hang them on the city wall for 49 days until they realized their mistakes. It doesn't matter if we are not strong enough. The desolate country is full of experts. Those people will have to bear the consequences in the end. The residents of Stone City were boiling with anger because of these people's disrespect towards the Rock Emperor. They wanted nothing more than to roll up their sleeves and fight. If he was strong enough, he would definitely push them all to the ground and kowtow to the Rock Emperor. What a great desolate country! Their strength is not weak at all. In the sky above Stone City, Qin Yuanshang's eyes could not help but twitch as he looked at the dozens of Saint Realm cultivators opposite him. He was surprised by such strength. It was unbelievable that a force in a small world could have so many experts. Qin Yuanshang was glad that he had brought Gong Sun Quan and Su Qixing with him. Otherwise, with his legalism alone, it would be hard to say what would happen if he faced the experts of the desolate country. Of course, if his cultivation had not been suppressed by the power of heaven and earth, he would not have been able to spy on the existence of Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaolin, Jin Qingchun, and Little Xingxing. He would not have been so calm. More than 60 Saint Realm experts. They are indeed not weak. Gong Sun Quan nodded in agreement with Qin Yuanshang's words. It should be known that this was a small world, not an existence like the 33 heavens. Compared to other small worlds, such strength was too terrifying. It could be said that if the people of the desolate country were to go on an expedition, they could easily take down all the small worlds. After all, this world is too special. It's not too strange for such a situation to occur. However, if you really want to compare it with the 33 heavens, it is not enough. Su Qixing's eyes flashed as he said. While the 3 of them were talking, Yi Wuming stepped out from the desolate country's lineup. His seemingly old eyes swept across Qin Wushang, Gong Sun Quan, and Su Qixing as he said, "You are from the 33 heavens. Are you from the 9 great families?" 9 great families? The 3 of them were stunned when they heard this. Then, they all understood, yes, there are only 9 great families in this world. Ignorant ants. Gong Sun Quan spat and mocked. In fact, they did not know that before Fu Yibai and the others left, They had already told the desolate country about the 33 heavens and the 100 schools of thought. It was just that they were used to calling them the 9 great families and did not pay attention to it. Dog, if you dare to scold me again, do you believe that I will not let you die without a burial ground? Little Tiger Du took a step forward and stood beside Oldie. He stared coldly at Gong Sun Quan as a terrifying murderous aura spread out and surged towards Gong Sun Quan. Gong Sun Quan suddenly took a step back and dispersed the surging aura. He was a little surprised. That seemingly ordinary young man was also a sage accomplished realm expert. So, he couldn't help but feel a little surprised by this. Such strength would not be below his current strength. You talk big. The people around Du Xiaofu are indeed arrogant. You have killed so many of my legalism, school of famers, and school of vertical and horizontal. Today, it is the desolate country's turn to pay the debt. Qin Yuanshang snorted coldly as his body pressed forward. A powerful pressure instantly spread out, causing the people behind him to feel a little breathless. However, despite their actions, the desolate country's lineup did not seem to be messed up at all. Instead, each of them looked at Qin Yuanshang with a deep sense of sarcasm. All of them are experts. In front of the school of vertical and horizontal, Su Qixing, who was as fat as a mountain of meat, suddenly opened his small eyes. He noticed that although the desolate country's side only had about half the number of people from the 3 families combined, few people showed any signs of being unable to bear the pressure of Qin Yuanshang's aura. In this way, most of the dozens of people had reached the perfect saint stage. The weakest ones were at the later saint stage. There were almost no early or middle saint stage cultivators. Under such a comparison, the overall strength of the 3 families combined would not be stronger than these people. It seems that this battle is not going to be easy. Su Qixing muttered to himself as he quickly calculated in his mind. No one knew what he was thinking. Those who died in the hands of the desolate country deserved to die. They absolutely deserved to die. If you came here today to stand up for the people of your 3 families who died, I believe that your end will be no different from theirs. The old monster green fox said coldly with a gloomy face. At this time, how could they not know the origin of these people? Who else could they be but the legalism, the school of vertical and horizontal from the upper world? The hatred between the 3 families of the desolate country had long been very deep. They did not know how many people had died in the hands of Du Xiaofu. However, they had only themselves to blame for all this. They could not blame anyone else. Therefore, when the old monster green fox said those words, he was naturally confident and confident. What a good way to say that they deserve to die. You are indeed brave. But you should know that in this world, the strong are respected. The words of the one with the bigger fist are the truth. The people of the 3 families died because they were not strong enough. And the desolate country will be destroyed today because they deserved to die. Qin Yuanshang's face was cold, and his killing intent surged. It was obvious that he did not intend to stop today. Even though he had sensed the strength of the desolate country's lineup, he was not afraid. After all, he had so many people on his side. If he could not even take down a small desolate country, not to mention the branch families in this world, even the main family in the upper world would be disgraced. However, to Qin Yuanshang's surprise, he thought that his words would make the people of the desolate country extremely afraid. Because the desolate country did not have the upper hand in terms of strength. However, as soon as he said those words, dozens of people on the opposite side sneered at him. This made him even angrier. Because the Qin family and the Li family of the legalism branch families had been killed, his anger burned even more fiercely. The dog who spoke just now, I don't know if your brain has been squeezed by a door. You are just a few fleas. How dare you come to the desolate country and make a fuss without considering your own strength? Ouyang Shuang suddenly spoke. Her words were not polite at all, and she directly scolded them. Su Qixing and the other 2 took a closer look and found that the other party was a woman with a hot body. Bitch, who are you calling a dog? Qin Yuanshang was instantly filled with anger. He did not restrain his aura at all and charged directly at Ouyang Shuang. This time, Ouyang Shuang did not answer. Instead, it was little Tiger Du who spoke again, Whoever answers is the one. Kid, you're courting death. Qin Yuanshang was seething with anger. He suddenly shouted, and then his body swept out like lightning. In an instant, he appeared in front of little Tiger Du at the same time. He threw out a palm across the sky, triggering the boundless power between heaven and earth. Terrifying spatial fluctuations spread out like a huge wave, rushing in all directions. This palm was graceful and absent-minded, transforming into strange afterimages. It directly pressed down on little Tiger Du's chest. Roar! In the face of Qin Yuanshang's attack, little Tiger Du's throat suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. It was like a violent thunderclap, and the sky and earth trembled along with it. At the same time, his body transformed, and the huge body of the dark heavenly tiger appeared. Its vigorous and powerful wings flapped, and black talisman runes filled the sky. It directly swept towards Qin Yuanshang's palm. Chi-chi, the two's attacks collided in an instant. The vigorous energy collided, and in an instant, a terrifying fluctuation erupted. A terrifying black hole was torn open in the space, and it was suffused with a gloomy light. Waves of terrifying energy waves drifted and spread out in the sky above the stone city. The two figures, one man and one tiger, were pushed back. Little Tiger Du walked in the void and quickly stabilized his body. The body of the dark heavenly Tiger Du was unscathed. Such powerful strength. On the other hand, on Qin Yuanshang's side, one of his palms was torn open and blood dripped down. Although it was not a serious injury, one could clearly see that there was a certain gap in strength between the two through just one blow. This exchange between the two of them caused the countless people in the stone city below to erupt into earth-shattering cheers. Good fight. Beat them up. How dare they disrespect the Rock Emperor? We must teach them a lesson. Beat them up. Beat them until they fly in and crawl out. No, we must make them go out on their knees. Many residents shouted loudly, cheering for little Tiger Du. His original body is actually from the dark heavenly tiger clan. To have such strength at such a young age, he is indeed extraordinary. In the sky above the stone city, Su Qixing's eyes narrowed again. He looked at little Tiger Du with a glint in his eyes. With such little strength, they dare to behave atrociously in the desolate country. In that case, we don't need to hold back. Teach them a lesson. At this moment, Elder Yi spoke again. With a gentle wave of his hand, dozens of people from the desolate country moved together, closing in on the formation of Legalism, School of Famers, and School of Vertical and Horizontal. Legalism, listen up. The desolate country has a deep feud with our legalism. Today is the day they will be destroyed. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. Qin Yuanshang roared out. He gave the order to the people from the School of Legalism behind him. Several dozen of them shot out as well. However, Gong Sun Quan and Su Qixing, who were beside him, did not move. What are the two of you waiting for? If you don't act now, when will you? Qin Yuanshang suddenly turned his head and shouted at the two of them. The three of them had come together to teach the people from the desolate country a lesson. The debt that Du Xiaofu owed them would be repaid by the people around him. Even though the desolate country had shown great strength, the three of them were not really afraid of the desolate country when they joined forces. All right, School of Famers, kill them. After a moment of hesitation, Gong Sun Quan also led the crowd and rushed out. Even if we can win this battle in the end, our School of Vertical and Horizontal will suffer great losses. This deal doesn't seem to be worth it. However, Su Qixing still did not move. Seeing that Qin Yuanshang and Gong Sun Quan were fighting with the people from the desolate country, he frowned. At this moment, he felt like he had been cheated. The strength of the desolate country was not as weak as he had imagined. Even if he led the experts from the School of Vertical and Horizontal and joined forces with Qin Yuanshang and Gong Sun Quan, they would not be able to gain much of an advantage. Therefore, he was a little afraid. If they fought to the death with the desolate country, even if they could win, they would suffer great losses. Su Qixing, you bastard, why aren't you attacking? On the other side, Qin Yuanshang and little Tiger Du were fighting again. At the same time, they could not stop cursing and were even more furious. They had agreed that the three of them would attack together. However, at this crucial moment, Su Qixing was still watching from the sidelines and had no intention of interfering. This made Qin Yuanshang's heart burn with anger. He was so aggrieved that he wanted to die. If the school of vertical and horizontal did not attack, there was no way to fight this battle. They could only be trampled on by the desolate country. Su Qixing, if you don't attack, my school of vertical and horizontal will not let you off. In the battlefield, Gong Sun Quan was also furious and shouted in Su Qixing's direction. However, unexpectedly, while he was distracted, Hun Ji's slender palm struck his shoulder and sent him flying. In response, Hun Ji only smiled charmingly. Then, with a twist of her delicate body, she chased after him again. Good. Take care of them. Beat them up until they look like pigs. A bunch of people who are asking for a beating. You are the ones who are asking for a beating. Look, that damn fatty is scared out of his wits. The heroes of the desolate country are unparalleled. Below, the stone city was filled with waves of cheers. Many residents were shouting with all their might. Some of the cultivators even used profound qi in their words. Their loud voices resounded throughout the entire stone city. Su Qixing frowned. In his eyes, the legalism and school of vertical and horizontal were being suppressed by the desolate country. They did not have any temper at all. There was not much difference in the number of people on both sides. However, in terms of overall strength, the desolate country was much stronger. If he did not attack, Qin Yuanshang and Gong Sun Quan's fates would be worrying. Su Qixing lifted one leg and was about to step out of the void to help. However, his leg stopped in midair and did not fall for a long time. He was constantly thinking about the pros and cons. If he did not help, the relationship between the school of vertical and horizontal and the legalism and horizontal would definitely be broken. It might even lead to hatred in the main family, and a bloody battle might even break out. However, if he went to help and fought to the end, he was worried that not many of the experts he brought with him would be able to return alive. After thinking for a long time and weighing the pros and cons, Su Qixing's squinted eyes finally revealed a determined look. He lifted his leg and finally took a step out. No matter what, it was better to have some people die than to face the joint attack of the legalism and vertical and horizontal families. As long as he could eliminate most of the desolate country's strength, he could send a message to the upper realm and send more experts down. Finally, he could uproot the entire desolate country. That would be a great achievement. However, just as Su Qixing took a step out, he suddenly felt his heart tighten. It was as if an invisible hand had suddenly grabbed it. He felt a few terrifyingly powerful auras sweeping over, causing his primordial spirit to tremble. My Shuangnyang was right. You bunch of idiots must have had your brains squashed by the door. At this moment, a little girl's voice rang out and entered everyone's ears. However, it was this little girl's voice that caused the people from the three families, including Su Qixing, Gong Sun Quan, and Qin Yuanshang, to shiver inexplicably. A chill rose from the soles of everyone's feet and rushed straight to their heads. Grandpa Yi, Auntie Shuang, Uncle Little Tiger, Auntie Shaoqing, all of you can leave first. Leave this to us. Immediately after, another little boy's voice rang out. Similarly, it caused everyone to break out in a cold sweat. They felt as if they were being stared at by a terrifying beast, and a chill ran down their spines. Grandpas, uncles, and Auntie, let us take care of these people. You can go down and watch. Chapter 2673. While Qin Yuanshang, Gong Sun Quan, Su Qixing, and the others were still in shock, another childish voice rang out. A total of 3 children's voices reverberated above the stone city and drilled into everyone's ears. Xiao Huang, Xiaoba, Xiaolin. Du Shaoqing, Little Tiger Du, Old Monster Green Fox, Ouyang Shuang, and dozens of other saints of the barren nation, who were fighting fiercely with the people from the 3 major families, instantly abandoned their opponents and retreated to a distance and gathered together. The more than 100 people from the school of legalism, the school of famous scholars, and the school of vertical and horizontal were a little stunned. Under their gazes, They saw 3 young figures walking in the air from below as if they were walking on an invisible staircase. The barren nation's experts have appeared. It's the Rock Emperor's son, daughter, and nephew. These 3 kids aren't very old, but they're all lords of terror. Now those invaders will suffer. Let's see how they can jump around. Prince, princess, teach them a lesson. Let those people know the power of the barren nation. Below the stone city, many residents shouted when they saw Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaohuang, and Du Xiaolin appear. Everyone clenched their fists in excitement. They all knew that the strength of these 3 little fellows was extremely terrifying. If not for their young age in terms of talent, none of them would be inferior to the Rock Emperor. With them taking action, the outcome of those invaders could be imagined. 3 little brats? Gong Sun Quan's eyes widened as he looked at the 3 figures rapidly approaching. He felt extremely incredulous. It turned out that they were really 3 little kids. However, it was these 3 little kids that made his heart tremble for no reason. These are not 3 little brats. These are 3 experts. On the other side, Su Qixing narrowed his small eyes and his heart was heavy. He could clearly feel that the 3 little kids had extremely terrifying auras. Therefore, he could not judge these 3 people by the standards of looking at children. These were 3 top-notch cultivators, who were much more terrifying than the dozens of saints from the barren country. The desolate country was much more powerful and terrifying than they had imagined. Just as he was about to lead his men to attack, he stopped and decided to observe the situation first. A supreme ant phoenix and a little qilin. Is the one in the middle a human? Why does he have such a strong aura of the golden-winged great rock? Gong Sun Quan was astonished. Whether it was the ant phoenix, the little qilin, or the golden-winged great ping race, these 3 races were absolutely powerful existences in the 33 heavens. The school of legalism, school of famous philosophers, and school of vertical and horizontal were among the most powerful schools in the 100 schools of thought. However, when facing the 3 races, they still had to be polite. If they fought, they definitely wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. A bunch of blind dogs, how dare you come barking in my desolate country? Du Xiaoba's small body was muscular, and a faint golden light erupted from his body, making him look as fierce as a human-shaped golden-winged great rock. His young face had a domineering and fierce expression. He looked at the people from the school of legalism, school of famous philosophers, and school of vertical and horizontal as if he was looking at a group of dead people. 3 immature bastards. You're young but you sure talk big. Among the 3 schools, Qin Yuanshang slowly calmed down after his initial shock. Although the aura emitted by the 3 little guys was stronger than him, Gong Sun Quan, and Su Qixing, it wasn't enough to make him feel afraid. After all, they had come from the 33 heavens. If they were in the outside world, with their strength and the cultivation standards of this world, they would be experts in the heavenly saint realm. Although these 3 little fellows were extremely extraordinary, to them, they weren't considered to be very powerful. We are indeed arrogant, but your barking is even louder. Du Xiaohuang snorted coldly and said. Before she finished speaking, she, Du Xiaoba, and Du Xiaolin had already stepped into the air and directly closed in on the experts of the 2 families. Little thing, you have a sharp tongue. I think your elders didn't teach you well. Today, let me teach you how to behave on behalf of your elders. Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaohuang kept calling them dogs, causing the faces of Qin Yuanshang, Gong Sun Quan, Su Qixing, and many experts of the 3 families to darken. As the experts of the top forces of the 100 schools of thought, they had never been insulted like this. This was simply a naked provocation. Trash like you dare to say that you want to teach us how to behave. Today, let your grandpa Xiaoba teach you how to behave. Du Xiaoba leaped, and golden light gushed out from his body. Screech! A loud roar came from Du Xiaoba's throat and reverberated in the sky above the stone city. The loud and clear sound penetrated the soul, causing more than 100 people from the 3 clans to tremble in an instant. Boy, you're courting death! Qin Yuanshang roared. His hands drew a mysterious trajectory in the void, and a terrifying aura quickly rose from his body. As his hands moved, A boundless momentum of heaven and earth suddenly rose, and the vast aura in the space surged wildly towards him. In an instant, Qin Yuanshang's body burst out with a torrential light, and a magnificent aura shuttled back and forth, finally condensing as if it had evolved into a world. Rumble. In the next moment, as heaven and earth trembled, the universe began to rotate around Qin Yuanshang. Mountains and rivers moved horizontally, and the sun, moon, and stars appeared. The terrifying power shook the universe. The heavenly Tao is far, the human Tao is far, and the law is broken. Qin Yuanshang shouted. He stepped in the void, gathering the endless momentum of heaven and earth, making him look incomparably majestic, as if a supreme creature was overlooking the common people. He used his strongest power. This was the Tao of legalism, the combination of law, technique, and momentum. The Tao was heavenly, and the Tao was boundless. What a terrifying method! The people of legalism from the 33 heavens are indeed much more powerful than the people of this world. So what if they are powerful? Since they have come to this world and are suppressed by the power of heaven and earth, they have to coil up and lie down even if they are dragons and tigers. Do they really think that the desolate country is easy to bully? It's a pity that their strength can only be exerted to the perfect saint realm. With Xiaoba's cultivation, it's really easy for him to bully them. Just wait and see. I bet that in a while, these people will regret coming to this world. In the distance, Ouyang Shuang, Elder Lei, Han Ji, Du Fenshan, and the others were all shocked by Qin Yuanshang's methods. They praised the people of the main clan of legalism for being powerful enough. However, they were not worried about Du Xiaoba in the slightest. The old monster green fox, little tiger Du, and the others even had gloating smiles on their faces. Du Xiaoba had the strength of a half-step heavenly saint. Facing Qin Yuanshang, who was suppressed to the perfect saint realm, he had a great advantage. Break the law? Break your sister's balls. Facing Qin Yuanshang's attack, Du Xiaofu's little face tightened as he scolded with a serious expression. As soon as this sentence came out, Ouyang Shuang, Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoman Yi Wuming, and the half-step heavenly saint experts in the palace were all stunned. Where did this brat learn this from? Everyone was speechless. They really didn't know where Du Xiaoba's ability to curse in the street came from. However, outside the ancestral hall of the Du family, Du Yunlong, Yi Piaoling, Qian Guyu, and little Xingxing all turned their gazes at the golden-robed young man beside them in an instant. Damn it! Why are you all looking at me? That little guy learned it on his own. It has nothing to do with me. Du Xiaoyao's face darkened. He really didn't teach Du Xiaoba in this aspect. In the sky above the stone city, after Du Xiaoba cursed, he fiercely punched out. A resplendent golden fist mark shot out, shattering the void and instantly appearing in front of Qin Yuanshang. Then, under the shocked gazes of all the people from the three great families, this incomparably simple fist mark drove straight through and directly blasted into the world shadow that Qin Yuanshang had created. Boom! A terrifying vibration spread out. The earth, mountains, rivers, and stars that had been formed all exploded in an instant, turning into an energy storm that filled the sky and surged violently. Du Xiaoba's punch was like an incomparably ferocious dragon. In the end, it brazenly smashed into Qin Yuanshang's chest. Bang! A dull sound rang out, like a heavy hammer hitting the surface of a drum, emitting a terrifying vibration. Qin Yuanshang's chest was directly smashed in by this punch. After Qin Yuanshang let out a blood-curdling scream, a mouthful of blood shot out from his mouth, piercing through the void. Then, his body flew out like a kite with a broken string, drawing a beautiful arc in the air. Good job, we should teach them a lesson like this. Beat him into a pig's head. A bunch of blind dogs. Beat them until they can't even recognize their own mothers. The residents of the stone city burst into cheers. They were jubilant, and their hearts were jubilant. They actually dared to behave atrociously in the desolate country. They should be taught a lesson like this. This, in contrast to the mood of the residents of the desolate country, the experts of the three great families felt their hearts turn cold. especially the people of legalism. With Qin Yuanshang's strength, he was the backbone of the main clan in the 33 heavens. However, he couldn't even withstand a single blow and was easily dealt with by a little brat. This caused everyone to break out in a cold sweat. Little Huang, little Lin, don't just stand there. Get rid of this group of dogs and end it quickly. We can't let their barking affect Uncle Xiaofu. Du Xiaoba frowned and looked fiercely at the remaining 100 or so people of the 3 great families. The dogs bark too fiercely, so we have to teach them a lesson. If we don't beat them until they are afraid, they will jump out and bite people from time to time. Du Xiaowang's small face slightly raised. Without delay, her figure was like lightning, and in an instant, she had already swept to Gong Sun Quan's side. I'll beat you! Little Qilin cheered. Its 4 hooves stepped on the light of thunder, and it quickly rushed towards the young man of legalism. When the young man saw little Qilin coming, he was scared out of his wits. He quickly retreated, wanting to escape from this place. You can't run away! Little Qilin's tender voice shouted. It didn't chase after him. Instead, it waved one of its front hooves and sprinkled a bright thunder light, directly hitting the back of the young man's heart. Poof! Blood spurted out. After the young man was hit by the power of thunder, he fell into the void. His back was charred, and arcs of light were still blooming on the wound. I said you can't run away. Let me send you away. Stay away from our family. Du Xiaolin's voice sounded like a 3 or 4-year-old child, immature and naive. However, he didn't show any mercy when he made his move. In an instant he took down the young man of legalism. That wasn't all. His 4 hooves moved in the void, and he rushed to the young man's side. Immediately afterward, little Qilin suddenly stood up. Its 2 small front hooves hugged the young man's arm. Its 2 hind legs stepped on the stars, and its 4 hooves suddenly exerted force at the same time. It dragged the young man in the void and quickly turned around. Then, it fiercely threw him high into the sky, and its front hooves spread out. Ah! The young man from the school of legalism let out a miserable howl, dragging out the last syllable. He was like a rooster whose wings were tied up. He was thrown high into the sky by little Qilin. Whoosh! Suddenly, a huge space crack appeared behind the young man's trajectory. A fierce aura spread out from the space crack, and huge lightning dragons were flying around it. The young man's body directly entered the space crack, and then he was swallowed by the dark crack and disappeared. The space crack was not too big, and it quickly closed. The young man's figure didn't appear again. This scene stunned the 3 big families, the people of the desolate country, and the residents of the stone city. What the fuck? After a while, someone said in a low voice with extreme shock. That person couldn't have been thrown out of this world, could he? Someone in the stone city asked with uncertainty. Not everyone was powerful, so many people didn't know the specific situation. He came from the outside world and was thrown back to where he came from. Very good. In the sky above the imperial palace, the old monster green fox smiled like a flower. Ah, well done, Xiaolin. Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaohuang also laughed. They collided in the air and knocked down the experts of the 3 big families again and again. Qin Yuanshang and Gong Sun Quan had been knocked down by him and Du Xiaohuang. After seeing Du Xiaolin's actions, Du Xiaoba was not to be outdone. He quickly picked up a disciple of a famous family and threw him away. Under his half-step heavenly saint power, a crack exploded in the sky and swallowed the disciple of a famous family. He disappeared without a trace. I'll throw one for fun too. Du Xiaohuang giggled and followed Du Xiaoba's actions. She quickly grabbed a legalism expert and threw him out. Whoosh! Before the space crack triggered by Du Xiaoba closed, the disciple of a legalism also entered it while screaming in fear. Ha! The prince is mighty, the princess is mighty. Ha! How dare they come to the desolate country and be so presumptuous? Throw them all out. Ha! Beat them up first, then throw them out. The residents of the stone city were in an uproar again. Cheers and screams were endless. They were all cheering for the methods of the 3 little guys. Bastard! Are the people of legalism so easy to bully? In the distance, the seriously injured Qin Yuanshang was furious. However, under the divine power of Du Xiaoba and the other two, he could not stop all of this. He could only watch as dozens of disciples of legalism were thrown away one by one. Stop! Gong Sun Quan also shouted, but he was powerless to do anything. Who asked their strength to be suppressed? They were not a match for these three brats at all. Old dog, since you're in such a hurry, I'll send you on your way first. Du Xiaoba snorted softly. Like an ancient fierce beast, he pounced and arrived beside Qin Yuanshang in the blink of an eye. Little bastard, what are you doing? Qin Yuanshang panicked. He dragged his seriously injured body and wanted to escape. If he was caught by the boy in front of him, there was no need to think about the result. He would definitely be thrown out. You old dog, you bark the most fiercely. How could Du Xiaoba watch him escape? He immediately caught up to Qin Yuanshang like a bolt of lightning and grabbed his arm with a small hand. On the other side, almost at the same time, Gong Sun Quan was also restrained by Du Xiaohuang and could not move. The power in the two little guys circulated and directly placed a restriction on Qin Yuanshang and Gong Sun Quan, making them unable to resist at all. Go! Du Xiaohuang shouted and swung his small arms at the same time as Du Xiaoba, throwing Qin Yuanshang and Gong Sun Quan out of his hands. Whoosh whoosh, the two figures flew side by side into the sky. The two screamed desperately, but they could not struggle at all. Soon, they were also swallowed by a spatial crack in the sky and disappeared. However, all of this did not end there. Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, and Du Xiaohuang kept rising and falling in the void. Every time, they appeared beside a person from legalism and school of famous. Due to the suppression of the power of heaven and earth, the strength of these people was at most in the perfection saint realm, and they were in the minority. They wanted to escape, but how could they be faster than the speed of the three little guys? In just a few breaths, hundreds of people from legalism and school of famous were all thrown into the air. Whoosh 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 whoosh, the figures streaked across the sky and went straight into the ninth heaven. They were all swallowed by the spatial crack. The field above the imperial palace was also much wider in an instant. Only the experts from the school of vertical and horizontal were left. They did not make a move before. To be precise, they did not have the time to make a move. Du Xiaoba clapped his hands and nodded with satisfaction, smiling slightly. Chapter 2674. Su Qixing's face twitched and he didn't know what to say. He, Qin Yuanshang, and Gong Sun Quan had come to this world with a mission from the main clan to revive the various clans in this world. Although this world could only be considered a small world, because of its special characteristics, it attracted great attention from the clan, which was why dozens of saint stage experts were sent to this world. Because of the enmity between Du Xiaofu and the three great clans, coupled with Qin Yuanshang's repeated lobbying, Su Qixing came to the desolate country with them to take revenge for the past. But he didn't expect that there were so many experts hidden in this small desolate country. He hadn't even had the time to make a move, and just three little kids had beaten up the legalism and famous clans so badly that they were all thrown out of this world. That wasn't like being chased out of this world. That was being thrown out like a sandbag. It was being thrown out. Savage, this is too savage. Su Qixing raised his sleeve and wiped the sweat on his chubby face. At this moment he felt extremely lucky. Fortunately, after seeing the strength of the desolate country, he had been hesitant and didn't have the time to make a move. Otherwise, he and the dozens of people behind him would have ended up like Qin Yuanshang and Gong Sun Quan, thrown out of this world alive. It could be imagined that if this matter spread in the 33 heavens, the legalism and famous clans would lose face. As people from the upper world, after coming to the lower world, they were bullied too miserably. If the other forces in the 30 heavens knew, wouldn't they laugh until they were out of breath? This is no longer the return to void stage. These three kids are all experts half a step into the God-seizing realm. Su Qixing muttered, unconsciously describing the strength of Du Xiaoba and the other two according to the level of the 33 heavens. The others, including him, Qin Yuanshang and Gong Sun Quan, were all in the God-seizing realm, but after being suppressed by the power of heaven and earth, They could only display the cultivation of the return to void stage, and not the peak of the return to void stage. Su Qixing thought with lingering fear. Just these 3 children were so terrifying. Needless to say, in the desolate country, there were definitely experts who hadn't made a move yet, and they were even more terrifying than these 3 people. Fortunately, he didn't make a move, otherwise, he would have been tricked by Qin Yuansheng. Given the strength of the desolate country, to deal with them, the higher world would have to send someone stronger. Phew! Su Qixing let out a long sigh and suppressed the shock in his heart. Then, he turned to Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, Du Xiaohuang, as well as Wu Ming and Ouyang Shuang in the distance. He cupped his hands and said, "I was rude. Sorry for disturbing you." Under when. If the other party was unhappy and took care of him as well, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. Perhaps within the 33 heavens, with his strength, he wouldn't be afraid of these people. However, in this world, he couldn't be too arrogant. It was better to leave as soon as possible to avoid causing any trouble. At this time, he would be a fool to stay any longer. "Let's go." Su Qixing waved his sleeve, and a large ray of light enveloped the dozens of people from the school of vertical and horizontal. Then, the space in front of him distorted and rippled. As long as he entered it, he could quickly leave the desolate country. Unfortunately, things didn't go as he wished. Just as he was about to step out, suddenly, a shocking pillar of lightning appeared in the space in front of him. Boom! A loud sound reverberated. The pillar of lightning was incomparably thick, and it crashed into the space, shattering the spatial ripples in front of Su Qixing. The fragments of lightning and spatial ripples surged and swept out like a storm, forcing Su Qixing to retreat. The dozens of disciples from the school of vertical and horizontal behind him groaned under the terrifying impact. It was obvious that they were badly shaken. "You want to leave just like that?" After Du Xiaoba shot out a bolt of lightning, he brought Du Xiaohuang and the little Qilin with him. They moved quickly in the air and once again forced their way towards Su Qixing. "Everyone, I have no intention to be your enemy. I only followed the legalism school of vertical and horizontal to observe. Previously, we didn't defend you. However, today the school of vertical and horizontal has indeed made a mistake. How about we come and apologize another day?" Su Qixing's heart rose with anger, but at the same time, he was frightened. Trying hard to suppress these emotions, he squinted his small eyes on his chubby face and said respectfully to Du Xiaoba. Saying that he didn't offend them and wanted to apologize was just a facade. He definitely wouldn't be able to fool the other party. However, since he showed his attitude, the people of the desolate country had to give him some face. Even though he couldn't defeat these little guys, if the upper realm sent someone stronger, no matter how strong the desolate country was, they wouldn't be able to withstand it. It was fine as long as everyone took a step back and lived in peace. "Do you think you can fool us with a few words? You came to my desolate country aggressively and wanted to show off the power of the upper realm. Now that you see that the situation isn't right, you want to run away." Du Xiaoba's young eyebrows raised as he stared at Su Qixing and said disdainfully, "They only have this ability. If they can't beat us, they want to run. But can you run?" Du Xiaohuang curled her lips and sneered. With the 3 of them here, with the strength of the dozens of people from the school of vertical and horizontal, none of them could escape. "You?" Su Qixing's face became extremely ugly. He never thought that these 3 little guys would be so aggressive. They didn't give him any face and had no intention of stopping. "Brother Xiaoba, Sister Xiaohuang, let's throw these people out too. If there's a chance in the future, we'll apologize to them. How about that?" The little Qilin thought for a moment and said seriously. That naive and innocent look immediately made Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaohuang burst into laughter. Xiaoba Lin is the same as his father. He's also full of evil tricks. In the distance, after hearing Du Xiaoba's words, Yi Wuming said with a smile, "It's all Du Xiaofu's fault. When he recovers, see how I'll deal with him." Ouyang Shuang's pretty face turned serious as she said with some anger, "As expected of the Rock Emperor's son. There's nothing wrong with being a little bad. At least it won't be easy to lose." The old monster green fox laughed. While they were talking, their eyes never left the people in the distance. Ah, good, this idea couldn't be better. Let's do it. Du Xiaoba laughed. He was young but had an extremely domineering aura. Everyone, don't go too far. Faced with the pressure of Du Xiaoba, and Du Xiaohuang, Su Qixing's chubby face finally couldn't help but look gloomy. He had already made some concessions, but the three little guys were still unwilling to give up, which made him extremely angry. As an expert in the 33 heavens, when had he ever suffered such cowardice? It was because he was suppressed in this realm. If it were in the outside world, he wouldn't need to be so humble. He would have slapped these three little guys to death. Go too far? Don't you feel embarrassed saying that? Du Xiaoba spat and said, whether it was in the past or now, when didn't you use your strength to provoke us first? Then when you know you can't beat us, you say we're going too far. Hee, if this is really going too far, then I'm bullying you. So what? If you have the ability, come and bite me. As Du Xiaoba spoke, he also gave Su Qixing a middle finger. This move made Su Qixing fume. His chubby chest heaved up and down, as if it was about to explode. Sincerely, don't go too far. Maybe I can't do anything to you in this realm, but there are many experts in the school of vertical and horizontal. It's definitely not something a small barren country can fight against. Then again, there will be a time when you leave this realm. Su Qixing was incomparably angry, but he still patiently said, victory and defeat were common in war. It was nothing to be beaten up, but to fall into the hands of these little guys and be thrown out of this realm, this was a great loss of face. No matter what, he was still a reputable figure. It was difficult for him to accept the ridicule of tens of thousands of people. You're bringing out the background of the 33 heavens? Are you threatening us? Du Xiaohuang curled the corners of her mouth and sneered. Su Qixing's words contained a threat. How could she not hear it? However, it just so happened that no one in the barren country was afraid of the threats of others. On the contrary, the more ruthless the threat, the more miserable the ending would be. These little guys knew in their hearts that the school of vertical and horizontal in the 33 heavens was definitely powerful. Their strength was definitely enough to crush the barren country. However, how many times had such a situation happened over the years? Weren't those powerful forces and opponents ruthlessly trampled under their feet in the end? If it weren't for those powerful enemies, how could the barren country have its current glory? Good threat. If you keep begging for mercy and admit defeat, I might really consider letting you go for the time being. But now, I only want to use the sole of my shoe to stamp a few marks on your arrogant face. Du Xiaoba snorted. As he spoke, he had already forced his way to Su Qixing's side. With his half-step heavenly sage cultivation and the Golden Rock Race's speed ultimacy, it wouldn't be easy for Su Qixing to escape. Xiaohuang, Xiaolin attacked together. Don't let a single one of these school of vertical and horizontal go. This time, I want to knock them out, then strip them naked and throw them out. As he spoke, Du Xiaoba's body surged with a large amount of lightning. Streaks of bright lightning coiled around his body like climbing meridians. Rumble! The sound of thunder spread out. The thunder martial vein in Du Xiaoba's body shook the sky. Like a thunder net, it quickly flew into the air and then directly pressed down on the dozens of people from the school of vertical and horizontal. On this thunder net, there was an incomparably terrifying aura. It was fierce and domineering, as if it could destroy everything. Boom, 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 boom. The people from the school of vertical and horizontal, including Su Qixing, all panicked at the same time. Dozens of people exerted their strength at the same time, and a series of ferocious attacks were launched, shaking the big net above their heads. It had to be said that when dozens of Saint Stage experts attacked together, it really shook Du Xiaoba's thunder martial vein a little. Although it didn't cause any damage, it slightly stopped the momentum of the net from pressing down on them. Brother Xiaoba, let me help you. Little Qilin shouted loudly. Then, the thunder martial vein on its body also appeared. It flew high into the sky and merged with Du Xiaoba's thunder martial vein. Rumble, buzz, buzz, buzz. Amidst the sounds of thunder, the void was suppressed by the two thunder martial veins until it buzzed and trembled non-stop. large expanses of space shattered and were crushed into smithereens. Puff! Among the dozens of people from the school of vertical and horizontal, many of them cried out miserably under the terrifying pressure. Those with insufficient cultivation even spat out blood and their faces instantly turned pale. In the end, dozens of people were suppressed. No matter how many attacks they launched, it was impossible to shake the combined pressure of two half-step Heavenly Saint stage experts. Even Su Qixing had a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth at this moment. The experts from the school of vertical and horizontal were all trapped in the two thunder martial veins and were no longer able to effectively resist. Watch me beat them up. Du Xiaowang's small body shot forward and directly charged into the prison formed by the thunder martial vein. Desolate country, my school of vertical and horizontal will definitely not let you off, Su Qixing said sternly, with an indescribable viciousness. However, before he could finish his words, he let out an sound, like a pig being slaughtered, came out of his mouth. Du Xiaowang's tender little fist had already brazenly smashed onto the side of the round face. The pitiful Su Qixing, whose true strength was above Du Xiaowang's, was smashed by this punch, causing him to see stars and feel dizzy. He almost couldn't tell north from south. You're still being stubborn at a time like this. Du Xiaohuang wanted to grab Su Qixing's arm, but this fatty's arms were simply too thick. They were like two pillars, and she couldn't grab them at all. As a result, Du Xiaohuang turned around and grabbed Su Qixing's collar, and then punched him again and again on the left side of his face. I told you to be stubborn, I told you to be stubborn, I told you to be stubborn. Every time Du Xiaohuang said a sentence, she would punch him. After more than 10 punches, half of Su Qixing's face was swollen, like half of a pig's head, and he was even fatter than before. Du Xiaowang's strength was controlled very well, and she did not kill him with a few punches. But even so, Su Qixing was really about to faint. Then he only felt his body go numb, and Du Xiaowang's restriction landed on his body, causing him to be unable to summon the slightest bit of strength in his body. It was only at this time that Su Qixing was truly shocked to death. Let the pig fly. Du Xiaohuang shouted tenderly, grabbed Su Qixing's collar, and threw him into the sky. At the same time, the lightning net that Du Xiaoba and Du Xiaolin had set up together automatically gave way to a gap. With a swish, Su Qixing's body, which was like a mountain of flesh, whistled through the air, passing through the gap in the lightning net, and rushed into the sky. Goodbye, pig head. Above the sky, a terrifying void crack appeared once again. Yin and Yang Qi surged out, and the Qi of gods and demons surged out. The dozens of figures from the school of vertical and horizontal were swallowed in one after another and disappeared. Then, the huge void crack slowly closed, and the sky finally returned to its original appearance, blue and clear. Chapter 2675. It's finally peaceful. A smile appeared on Du Xiaoba's young face as he nodded his head. He was very satisfied with what he had done. Beside him, the little Qilin raised its little head and squinted its eyes at the blue sky. There was an evil smile on its lips. No one knew what it was thinking. Little Qilin, let's go back. Du Xiaoba stepped forward and carried the little Qilin in his arms. Then he stepped down from the sky and returned to the Du family's ancestral hall. He gathered with Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaojing, Yi Piaoling, and the others. As for Du Xiaohuang, she had already returned before them and continued to guard the place. Good. Well done. Vaguely, they could hear cheers and screams coming from the stone city, as well as the sound of clapping. Xiaoba, little Lin, well done, ha. Du Xiaoyao gave them a thumbs up and praised them. His way of doing things really resembled his and Du Xiaofu's style. This child was worth teaching. Legalism, School of Famers, and School of Vertical and Horizontal. Let's take this as a warning. When we get to the 33rd heaven, we'll have a good fight with them. Even Yi Piaoling and Chen Guyu, who were usually serious, could not help but smile. They did not think that Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, and Du Xiaohuang had gone overboard. The enmity between the three families and the desolate country was not something new. Even if they were to let them go today, they would still be harassed endlessly in the future. They think that the desolate country is easy to bully. This time, they'll feel worse than death. Du Yunlong said softly. His handsome face also showed that he was trying to hold back a smile. Legalism and School of Famers were already miserable enough. They came to this world as people from the upper realm, but were directly thrown out. These two families had lost a lot of face. However, the School of Vertical and Horizontal's ending was much worse. They were even stripped naked and sent away. This was worse than being killed. The dozens of people from the School of Vertical and Horizontal probably would not have the face to go out in the 33rd heaven. To be honest, the hatred between them was a little too big. However, the group of experts from the desolate country also understood that if it were not for the fatty from the School of Vertical and Horizontal threatening them, Du Xiaoba would not have gone to this extent. They were already standing on the weaker side, but they were still acting so tough and self-righteous. They even brought out their background as the main race of the 33 heavens. Who are they trying to impress? Such a person should be dealt with so ruthlessly. After Du Xiaoba, Du Xiaolin, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoyao, and little Xingxing chatted for a while, they stopped talking. All of them continued to sit cross-legged, guarding the Du family's ancestral hall to prevent anyone from disturbing them. Ever since there had been a series of disturbances in the stone coffin, it had been relatively calm in recent days without any fluctuations. Therefore, they could not determine what kind of state Du Xiaofu was in. If he wanted to recover, they did not know how long it would take. However, they knew that this process would definitely not be short. After all, Du Xiaofu's body had been shattered by the fiend god, and the energy of his soul had been completely burned away. His vitality was completely gone, so it would definitely take a very long time for him to recover completely. But now, the worries in everyone's hearts slowly disappeared. Because there was a movement in the stone coffin, it meant that there was a high chance that Du Xiaofu could recover. It was not like at the beginning, when everyone only held a glimmer of hope. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Yi Piaoling, Chang Guyu, and the others closed their eyes slightly and sat cross-legged, cultivating. They were unable to notice that even though no unusual activity was emitted from the stone coffin in the ancestral hall behind them, it was still undergoing a continuous change. Gulp. The stone coffin was filled with blood-red liquid, and Du Xiaofu's head was soaked in it. In this state, Du Xiaofu's head gradually changed. At the beginning it was blood-red, but in the end, it slowly became translucent and bright red. It became more and more transparent until it fused with the blood-red liquid. The color was the same, and only a rough outline could be seen. Following this, the liquid in the stone coffin slowly condensed and became smaller and smaller, gradually becoming solid. Until a certain moment, the compression process finally stopped. At that moment, all of the blood-red liquid had formed a human figure. It had all 4 limbs, a chest, and an abdomen, and it lay in the stone coffin. It was exactly the same as Du Xiaofu's original figure. However, it was not a real body. Instead, it was a body composed of liquid. Even its head seemed to be composed of liquid. Waves of blood-red liquid continuously flowed, giving off a strange, dark light. If an expert could see this, they would definitely be extremely shocked. The reason for that was because this sort of scene was simply too strange. It was simply incomprehensible. Moreover, there were still no ripples of soul or soul from the humanoid body, which meant that Du Xiaofu's vitality had yet to recover. Under the circumstances where there was no vitality, the body actually showed signs of reconstruction. This was truly miraculous. At this moment, in a place very, very far away from this world, in an unknown space where no one knew whether they were in the 33 heavens or not, 2 young men stood side by side. No ripples of presence could be seen from their bodies, and they seemed extremely ordinary. However, at a glance, they gave off a very strange feeling. It was as if they were one with the world. Every move they made was so natural and harmonious. "Boss, should we go to that world and take a look?" The golden-robed young man looked at the azure-robed man beside him and raised his eyebrows as he asked softly, "Xiao Long, you miss your daughter, don't you?" The azure-robed man smiled gently and said, Of course, so many years have passed and we still haven't seen each other. Chensi has been making a fuss recently and wants to bring her back. I almost can't handle it. The golden-robed man said with a bitter face. Ah. The azure-robed man laughed and reached out to pat the golden-robed man's shoulder. After laughing, his expression became more serious as he said, "Actually, I miss my little niece too. That child has really suffered all these years. If she had stayed by your side, she would have been blessed by the heavens. Coupled with your and Chensi's bloodline, her strength at this time would have probably far surpassed what she has now. This is nothing. Didn't we all go through the same thing back then? In the 3,000 boundless worlds, which major forces disciple had more resources than us. But in the end, weren't they all surpassed by us one by one?" Speaking of this, the golden-robed man could not help but raise his head with indescribable confidence. That's right, training in that world is indeed a good thing. However, you can't blame Chensi for making a fuss. After all, that's her flesh and blood. The azure-robed man sighed slightly and continued, "But now is not the time for us to show ourselves. I'm sure it won't be long before they go to the 33 heavens. It won't be too late to see them then. If we give them a deep background too early, it won't be good for their growth. After all, our plan still needs my junior brother's help. Don't worry, boss, I understand all of this. I won't let my emotions get the better of me." The golden-robed man also became serious. Speaking of the plan, his expression was also extremely serious. Following this, he thought for a moment and could not help but frown as he said to the azure-robed man, "However, recently, some forces in the 33 heavens seem to be ready to make trouble. Should we go and give them a warning? No matter what, with that world's current strength, it is far from being comparable to those ancient legacies. Letting them train is a good thing, but if the pressure is too great, I'm afraid it will be counterproductive." "I've already thought of these things and made certain arrangements," the azure-robed man said. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and the corners of his mouth could not help but curl up into a chuckle. He said, "However, the methods of those little fellows really are brutal. The school of legalism, the school of philosophers, and the school of vertical and horizontal have really gone down the drain this time. Especially that school of vertical and horizontal. If those old fellows know that their family members went to a small world and were stripped naked and thrown out, I'm afraid they'll fly into a rage. Ha! Boss, it's fine if you don't mention it. Now that you mention it, I can't help but want to laugh. Those little fellows by that boy's side are not simple. Moreover, the way they do things is very similar to the way we did back then." The golden-robed man laughed for a while and then clicked his tongue in praise. He seemed to be very satisfied with the way those little fellows did things. When those big forces went to find them back then, they were unwilling to deal with the devil religion. They only became obedient after we beat them up. However, now that the devil god has been eliminated, they don't dare to look for trouble with us, but they definitely won't show mercy to that world. The azure-robed man said softly, "That junior brother of mine is at a critical moment now. Whether all the plans can be carried out smoothly will depend on the results this time. Perhaps we should intervene and help him." The golden-robed man's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said hopefully, "Boss, why don't I go?" Slap. As soon as the golden-robed man finished speaking, the azure-robed man slapped the back of his head. "Boss, you hit me again." The golden-robed man was slightly annoyed, and at the same time, he felt slightly wronged. He held his head and looked at the azure-robed man with dissatisfaction. "At any rate, I was already an expert whose name shook the various large worlds since ancient times. You'll be laughed at by others if you treat me like this." "I'm sorry. It's a habit of many years. I'm afraid I can't change it." The azure-robed man slowly withdrew his hand with an embarrassed expression, but the ridicule in his eyes did not seem to be embarrassed at all. The golden-robed man was displeased. He turned his head away and ignored the azure-robed man. "It's not suitable for us to take action. I'll make the arrangements." When the azure-robed man saw that Xiaolong was truly angry, he tried to change the subject. "Go and pacify Chensi. Once they go to the 33 heavens, it won't be long before your family can meet again. The devil religion's calamity is over." Their world will soon make a move. I understand. The golden-robed man nodded. Actually, I'm very worried right now. Will our plan really succeed? The demon god's death was within our expectations, but he died at Jiangshan's hands. That's not within our control. Perhaps this miscalculation will lead to a better outcome. The azure-robed man chuckled at Xiaolong's words, then changed the subject. Jiangshan, perhaps it's more accurate to call him by another name. Boss, you mean to say? Xiaolong's eyes suddenly widened. Time passed by quickly. Unbeknownst to them, another few days had quietly passed. After the baptism of the Great Calamity, the three continents, Kyushu realm, had obtained a brief moment of peace. Then, another wave of excitement swept through the realm. Du Xiaohuang, Du Xiaolin, and Du Xiaoba had taken action in Stone City of the Desolate Nation. They'd thrown out the challengers from the school of legalism, the school of philosophers, and the school of vertical and horizontal. Like a storm, the news quickly spread through the entire realm. When countless people heard the news, they couldn't help but sigh in amazement. Holy shit, that's too fierce. They're from the upper realms. Those are experts from the upper realms. They were thrown out just like that. So what if they were thrown out? That's not all. I heard that the school of vertical and horizontals cultivators had their cultivations sealed, stripped naked, and thrown out. Well, thrown out, but even better stripped. Just because they're from the upper realms, they dared to come here and flaunt their strength. Serves them right. The younger generation of the Desolate Nation is terrifying to such an extent. It's simply too terrifying, too savage. It's a pity that the Rock Emperor isn't here anymore. Otherwise, under his leadership, we'd kill our way into the upper realms to take a look. We'd see how awesome those people are to be so arrogant. Yeah, it's a pity that the Rock Emperor passed away so young. The heavens are truly jealous of geniuses. The Rock Emperor was willing to give up his life for the sake of this realm. Those people actually dared to treat the Desolate Nation like that. This is intolerable. Indeed, it's intolerable. If one day I'm strong enough, I'll definitely fight my way into the upper realms and teach those people from the school of legalism, the school of philosophers, and the school of vertical and horizontal a lesson. I'll beat them up until they kowtow to the Rock Emperor and admit their mistakes. With our aptitude, it's probably impossible for us to kill our way into the upper realms. However, we're not afraid of the three great families in this realm. Why don't we go and beat them up first? That's a good idea. Let's go. Brothers, grab your weapons and follow me to kill those three great families. Bring me along, I want to go too. Let's go, I'll go too. After the initial commotion, the living beings of the three continents, Kyushu, and the other realms were suddenly filled with indignation. Countless people grabbed their weapons and aggressively rushed towards the school of legalism, the school of philosophers, and the school of vertical and horizontal. Among them, there was no lack of disciples from the major factions with decent cultivation bases. Many of them were above the Saint realm. If it were in the past, they would not have dared to challenge the three great families. However, after the Great Calamity, the three clans' strength was greatly reduced. There weren't many masters left in the remaining clans. This made many people muster up their courage and vow to avenge the fallen Great Rock King. While these people were on their way, the Confucian school, the school of Taoism, the school of Yin-Yang, the school of Farmer, the school of Buddhism, and the school of Moism had already received the news. They knew what had happened to the other three great families in the Desolate Nation. Sun Yufang of the Confucian school, Qian Shuzi of the school of Taoism, Qi Xinglong of the school of Yin-Yang, Zhou Qinglian of the school of Farmer, Hu Sandao of the school of Moism, and the old monk of the school of Buddhism were all stunned for a long time. Then, everyone burst into laughter. Their lips were so wide that they wanted to stretch all the way to their ears. They were incomparably happy. When they had just arrived in this realm, they had been at odds with the three great families for a while. They had even wanted to beat them up as a gift to Du Xiaofu. However, when they went to the branch families of their respective races and heard that Du Xiaofu had fallen, everyone sighed and mourned for him. Presumably, the school of legalism, the school of philosophers, and the school of vertical and horizontal would not let the desolate nation off so easily after receiving the news of Du Xiaofu's death. They were still planning to go to the desolate nation as soon as possible after arranging the affairs of their respective races to prevent the three great families from taking the opportunity to cause trouble. However, to their surprise, just as they were about to leave, the news of the three great families being beaten up came. This shocked them. They had not expected the desolate nation to be so powerful. With just a few little fellows, the three great families had been beaten to a pulp. After listening to the explanation from the branch tribe, they found out that in the barren country, other than Du Xiaofu who was the strongest, there was another heavenly sage and a dozen half-step heavenly sages. In this world, this kind of strength was enough to shock the world. Sun Yufang, Qian Shuzi, Qi Xinglang, Zhou Qinglian, and Hu Sandao shook their heads and sighed bitterly. They had wanted to go and help, but it turned out that they had worried for nothing. There were so many experts in the desolate nation. Even if the 9 great families of this realm attacked together, the same tragic ending would be inevitable, let alone the 3 great families. At this moment, I really want to see the faces of Qin Yuanshang, Gong Sun Quan, and Su Qixing. Especially that fat pig Su Qixing, he has lost all his face. I'm afraid after being beaten up, he will be punished by the school of vertical and horizontal when he returns to the upper realm. When I thought of this, why did my heart feel so comfortable and happy? The experts from the Confucian school, Taoist school, school of Yin-Yang, school of Farmer, and school of Moism laughed evilly. When they thought of the misfortune of the 3 great families, they felt indescribably happy. Those people had not only embarrassed themselves, they had also embarrassed the 3 great families of the upper realm. When such a thing happened to the 100 schools of thought, there would definitely be many people gloating. The 3 great families would definitely become the laughingstock of everyone. As for Qin Yuanshang, Gong Sun Quan, Su Qixing, and the others, they would definitely be severely punished by their respective families. In contrast, Sun Yufang, Qian Shuzi, Qi Xinglang, and the others were extremely satisfied with their branch families in this realm. Building a good relationship with the desolate nation was a wise decision. Chapter 2676. While the Confucian, Taoist, Yin-Yang, and other experts rejoiced, they also sighed endlessly. It was a pity that the Rock Emperor, Du Xiaofu, had fallen. Otherwise, even if he went to the 33 heavens, there would definitely be a world for him. They all knew that Du Xiaofu had the shadow of the master of the 3,000 great worlds and the dragon god behind him. With such a background, there would be a day when he would be able to stand at the top of the 33 heavens. Legalism. The few dozen experts who had survived the great calamity had been feeling uneasy, especially the old man called Han Tsung. The experts from the main clan who had descended did not wait for him to finish speaking before they all took to the skies and left to find trouble with the desolate country. They came from the outside world and did not know the ins and outs of the desolate country. However, as the branch clan of legalism in this world, they knew very well. In the desolate country, there was a large group of extremely powerful existences. Each of them was powerful enough to do as they pleased in this world. Furthermore, the little girl known as the Purple Dragon Emperor was a heavenly saint. She had reached the pinnacle of the heavenly saint realm. It would not be easy to find trouble with them. However, with the strength of Han Tsung and the others, it was indeed impossible to stop the experts from the main clan. All of them could only hope from the bottom of their hearts that the main clan also had a Sky Saint stage expert who could compete with the desolate country. However, there was no need to compare who was better. When it was about time, they would stop. After all, the Rock Emperor had sacrificed his life for the great calamity. He himself was also related to legalism by blood. If they fought back and forth, it would be their own people who would suffer losses. The Qin and Li family of this world's branch clans had been completely wiped out. Legalism could be considered to have settled a certain amount of enmity with the desolate country. They might as well take this opportunity to mend their relationship with the desolate country. This was not a bad deal. Han Tsung hoped that the experts from the upper world would be more far-sighted and not be too calculative about past gains and losses. After all, there were many extraordinary people in the desolate country. After going to the upper world, they would have their own strong backgrounds and would not be easy to deal with. However, when the news from the outside world came, Han Song and the rest of the legalism people were all stunned. They were in disbelief. The dozens of powerhouses from the upper realm were thrown out of this realm by a few little fellows just like that. This kind of result was really unimaginable. The group of the legalism people were all deeply shocked in their hearts. Originally, they were still hoping that the several dozen experts would help their school of legalism rebuild their foundations in this world and recover their past glory. No matter what, with so many experts present, even if the school of legalism would not be able to compare to a force like the desolate country in the future, it would at least reach the top in this world and be revered by countless people. At the very least, ordinary people would not dare to provoke them. At the same time, because the oath of gathering the 9 cauldrons, commanding the 9 families, had been nullified with the passing of the great calamity of the devil religion, legalism could be born again and continue to expand its influence. Who knew that such a piece of news would suddenly come and instantly crush the hopes of the remaining legalism people? If things didn't go well, the next time the master clan of the upper realm sent someone over, it was very likely that they would be punished. No matter what, it was because they did not explain clearly that those experts went to provoke the desolate country. If this was the case, they naturally could not escape the blame. If they had made things clear earlier and told them about the strength of the desolate country, those people would have seriously considered it before they set off. They would not have acted rashly. Now, they were thrown out of this world like a dead dog. Such a situation made Han Song and the others feel as if they were dead. In fact, it was not only the legalism people. The famous people and the school of vertical and horizontal people in this world were not in a good mood at this time. Hui Wu and Su Sanyan, as the most powerful people in the famous people and the school of vertical and horizontal people, were furious when they received the news from the upper world that they were going to send experts to this world. Long before the calamity, they had already sent a message to the upper world, hoping that they could send people down to pick up the disciples of the branch families in this world so that they could avoid the calamity and leave a foundation. However, not only did they not receive a reply from the upper world, but a few elders of the sage realm in consummate tried to escape, ignoring the lives of countless disciples of the 2 families. In the end, they were forcefully killed by Du Xiaofu. This caused the hearts of the people from the 2 great clans to turn ice cold. The upper world's upper world did not care about their lives at all. The existence of the demon god made them afraid, and they did not dare to set foot in this world. Instead, after the calamity, they quickly received news from the upper world that there would be experts coming to take over the branch families in this world. Among the famous people and the school of vertical and horizontal people, many were furious, but they did not dare to say anything. No matter what, they were the branch families, and the upper world was the upper world's upper world. In the face of powerful strength, they could only submit and not dare to have the slightest doubt. Therefore, they slowly suppressed the anger in their hearts, and waited for the arrival of those experts with peace of mind. However, in the end, the 2 families did not even see the faces of the experts of the upper world's upper world. They only received rumors from the outside world. After coming to this world, they did not even return to the branch families, and ran to the desolate country. Among the famous people, Hui Wu clenched his fist and muttered. At this moment, he did not know whether he should be happy or sad. Because of the abandonment of the upper world's upper world, there was an indescribable resentment in his heart. After knowing that those experts were beaten up by the 3 children of the desolate country and thrown out of this world, he should have been able to heave a sigh of relief. However, he was unable to do so. Those people that were being oppressed were indeed experts from his famous clan. The people of the main clan had been ruthlessly abused. As a branch clan, they naturally felt that they had lost face. In fact, Su Sanyan from the school of vertical and horizontal had the same idea as Hui Wu. Speaking of it, the treatment of the people from the school of vertical and horizontal was the most miserable. Each and every one of them was a reputable figure in the upper realm, yet they were stripped naked and thrown back to the upper realm. This was such a disgrace. This encounter would be a stain that they would never be able to wash away. They would become the laughingstock of countless people. The branch families of the School of Legalism, School of Famers, and School of Vertical and Horizontal all had heavy hearts. However, before they could recover from their emotions, a large group of people suddenly rushed to the door. Beat them up. Since they dared to cause trouble in the desolate country, we need to teach them a lesson. In order to defeat the demon god, the Rock Emperor sacrificed his own life. It's only been a few months since the Great Calamity, and you dare to find trouble with the desolate country? Can you be any more shameless? The blade in my hand will never agree to this. Beat them up. If we don't beat them until they're afraid, they'll never know how to restrain themselves. Many living beings were on their way to the three main families, shouting and yelling. Gradually, they formed a strong group and rushed directly into the branches of the three main families. During the Great Calamity, the battle between the Rock Emperor and the demon god had united the hearts of many people. After his death, there were still people who dared to find trouble with the desolate country. This infuriated many living beings. After the groups rushed into the three main families, they began an intense smashing operation. All the buildings were quickly destroyed. The three main families that had just been established were instantly turned into ruins. As for the people from their own families, they did not let them go. All of them were beaten black and blue, and their faces were swollen like pigs. However, under the leadership of organized and disciplined experts, no one killed them. They only wanted to teach them a lesson so that they would remember it well. The Legalism, School of Famers, and School of Vertical and Horizontal were even more tragic. They were beaten up until they cried for their parents, and their screams shook the sky. They felt aggrieved. It was clearly those people from the upper realm who acted on their own and went to find trouble with the desolate country. What did it have to do with them? They were still feeling aggrieved, but they did not expect to be beaten up in the end. What kind of situation was this? This is what you get for being disrespectful to the Rock Emperor. If you dare offend the desolate country again, I'll beat you up again. The experts from the three continents and Kyushu realm finally left the three main families in satisfaction. Before they left, some of them left behind some harsh words. The experts from the three main families could only cry without tears. They could only swallow all the bitterness into their stomachs. After being beaten up by so many people, they did not even know who to look for revenge. They could not possibly declare war on all the living beings in this realm. The huge storm caused by the desolate country slowly calmed down with the passage of time. However, the popularity of this matter continued for a very long time. Many people took delight in talking about it, especially the residents of the Stone City who had personally seen the three little fellows in action. They were incomparably proud of it and had plenty of topics to talk about when they conversed with others. Time passed silently just like that. After the Great Calamity, the three continents and Kyushu realm once again welcomed a rare period of peace. In the desolate country, Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaohuang, and the others were still guarding the ancestral shrine. In the ancestral hall behind them, in the seemingly ordinary stone coffin, a body condensed from sparkling and translucent liquid was lying quietly. It did not seem to have undergone any further changes. There was a strange dark red brilliance circulating on the body. It was crystal clear. As time passed, the dark red brilliance also slowly began to die down. In the end, all the colors were withdrawn. That humanoid body had taken on a corporeal form. It was exactly the same as Du Xiaofu from before. However, there were still no fluctuations of life coming from Du Xiaofu's body. He was like a corpse lying in the stone coffin just like that. Little Xingxing, Du Xiaoyao, and the others had not sensed any fluctuations from the stone coffin for a very long time. However, they were not particularly anxious. They all suppressed their impulses and waited. In reality, even if they were anxious, it was useless. They could not do anything to help. There was nothing they could do other than wait. On this day, many experts from the Confucian, Mahist, Taoist, School of Agriculture, and School of Yin-Yang arrived in the desolate country at the same time. Du Tingxian and Zhen Qingchun led everyone into the palace and received them well. Sun Yufang, Qian Shuzi, Hu Sandao, Qi Xinglang, and Zhou Qinglian were also very polite. They were very friendly to the people of the desolate country. These 5 branch families in this world had a good relationship with the desolate country. A few days ago, after the people from the School of Legalism, the School of Famous Scholars, and the School of Vertical and Horizontal came to cause trouble, they felt that the desolate country was extraordinary. If they went to the 33 heavens, they would definitely have a great chance of quickly growing stronger. It was better for such a friendship to continue. Unfortunately, they did not get to see the legendary 3 little fellows, nor did they get to see the little girl in the heavenly saint realm. Therefore, they felt a little regretful. The people from the 5 families did not plan to stay in the desolate country for long. They still had things to do in their branch families. However, just as they were about to leave, a huge spatial crack suddenly appeared in the clean sky. This world is getting more and more lively. Sun Yufang of the Confucian school said softly as he squinted and looked at the sky. Beside him, Du Tingxian, Zhen Qingchun, and Yi Wuming were all there. Could it be that the School of Legalism, the School of Famous Scholars, and the School of Vertical and Horizontal have sent experts down again? Qian Shuzi of the School of Taoism frowned and said, "It can't be. They suffered such a great loss, and they still have the nerve to come back and cause trouble?" Hu Sandao of the School of Moism said with his eyes wide open. His expression was somewhat serious. Although he said it could not be, he also knew that it was because of the great loss that the 3 families had suffered that they would not let the matter rest. If they were to send people down again at this time, they would definitely be more powerful experts. With the desolate country's current strength, it would be really dangerous if they encountered a few heavenly saints. Just as everyone's expression was solemn, there was finally some movement in the spatial crack high in the sky. 4 figures stepped out from it. The 4 of them were 2 men and 2 women. They all looked to be younger than 30 years old. The men were handsome, and the women were beautiful. The arrival of these 4 people did not cause a huge commotion and attract the attention of many creatures like the arrival of the School of Legalism, the School of Famous Scholars, and the School of Vertical and Horizontal. As soon as they appeared, the spatial crack slowly closed. After that, the 4 young men and women used their primordial spirits to investigate for a while, then slowly floated down from the sky and headed directly for the desolate country's imperial palace. "They're here for us?" Zhen Qingchun and Du Tingxian looked at each other and said with slight surprise. "They don't seem to be from the 3 families. They don't seem to have any hostility." Du Tingxian said. He observed for a while and found that the 4 of them did not emit any overbearing aura. "They're here." Zhou Qinglian of the School of Farming was stunned for a moment, then he muttered. Hearing that, Du Tingxian, Zhen Qingchun, and Yi Wuming all looked at Zhou Qinglian, who looked like a teenager. It was obvious that he recognized the 4 young men and women. "I've seen 2 of them before. Hao Ji Yuanin, an expert from the Beigong family. Why have they come to this world?" Qi Xinglang was also puzzled. He also recognized the 4 young men and women and was puzzled by their arrival. It seemed that there was no inheritance of that family in this world. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.